Sponsored by Square. All right, we are live. Welcome. This is Orion Rising. I am your host, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into this show. Shut this out, shut this out, shut this out. All right, it's Friday. Friday for me, Law of One. Let me take this overlay off the screen and put myself up into full screen. There we go. Okay, let me go back to the comments here so I can see what's going on. Peter, welcome. Brooke, welcome. Hi, guys. Share this out. Get everybody in here. Tag them in the chat. Find out where everybody is. Get their butts in here. It's Friday. They should be in here. Saturday if you're over in Australia. Friday night if you're over there where Peter is in the UK. Welcome, everybody. Friday night, Law of One. Okay. So I backed up a little bit. We're on session 81. I backed up to question 12. We finished on question 15, I believe. So I put us on question 12, right? So we'll start there. So I don't have anything crazy to start out with, right? Usually I have something crazy to start out with to get while everybody's coming in. I usually sit there and fill, but there's just normal craziness going on in the universe, in the world, with politics, geopolitics in the world. So I'm not going to sit and dwell on all that right away. So what we'll do is, start tagging people. Thank you, Brooke. Start tagging people and see if we can get them to come in here, right? And you can share it too. Like I said, share it to people as well. Share it out to groups. Get everybody in here. Okay. I didn't even say anything in the Law of One chat, so I don't even know if anybody's in there or alive today, right? Maybe I should share it there. Let me share it over in that chat for the Law of One as well, so they know that we're live. Not that they don't usually know anyways, but I'll share it there just the same. Oh, you just did. Thank you, Brooke, for doing that. Okay, so I don't need to do that myself. Thank you very much. Okay. So let me come back over here, and I'll go ahead and, I saw that when I was over there. I went over there and saw that you had shared it there. So, okay, so let me go ahead and do a sound check, and I'll start with the Law of One. We're on, like I said, session 81, question number 12 is where we're going to start. So let me go ahead and start it. We'll do a sound check. You guys let me know if you can hear it okay, right? Reese, welcome. Namaste. Welcome. So let me do a sound check, and we'll get started, okay? So let me know, I know I'm going to have to turn it up, so let me do that.
The most carefully noted addition would be that the outside stimulus of the Wheel of Fortune is that which offers both positive and negative experience. 81.12 Questioner, the 11th archetype, the experience of the body, represents the catalyst that has been processed by the mind/body/spirit complex and is called the enchantress because it produces further seed for growth. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 81.13 Questioner, we have already discussed the significator, so I will skip to number 13. Transformation of body is called death. For with death the body is transformed to a higher vibration body for additional learning. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct and may be seen to be additionally correct in that each moment and certainly each diurnal period of the bodily incarnation offers death and rebirth to one which is attempting to use the catalyst which is offered it. 81.14 Questioner.
Right, so Risen Nation, welcome. Chandra, welcome. right? Tag everybody, get them in here, right? Share this out, share this out. Everybody share this out, share this out, share this out. Okay. So, so death is the most natural catalyst for the ascension. You can ascend while you're awake, right? Because you do that. But to move to the next plane, you usually have to die to do so. That's one of the reasons why I backed it up to this, because it's also one of the reasons why I did that is this. Because in this instance here on Earth, in this particular lifetime that you're in, wherever you are around the world, we're actually upgrading the genome of the human species without having to have everybody die. So we're doing something novel, something different, something new in the universe that the Creator is allowed to see if we can upgrade a species without having to have a cataclysm. Okay? So we're actually doing that right now, and it's only the second time it's been attempted in the Milky Way galaxy. So this is something that is very, very new and experimental. We believe that it'll work just fine. The Creator does too. We're looking to soften the transition and quicken the transition from one plane of existence to another, because the way it naturally works is death, which is what Ra was talking about. And what happens from that, thank you, Chandra, for sharing that, or tagging a bunch of people. Penny, welcome. So what normally happens is there's a cataclysm of some kind, nuclear war, world war, meteor strike, volcanic eruption, something that is a global killer that destroys flood, fires, that destroys large swaths of the population. And that is what the Christians referred to as the rapture. All religions have that time of trouble, the time of tribulation, the Kali Yuga, the Ragnarok, the end times. Those are all talking about the same scenario that normally happens, where there's some calamity that destroys a very large swath of the population of the earth, if not, as most of the population, and then it's a reset and the population starts over. Okay, so we have decided at this particular time on this particular planet, we've chosen this planet so that to do this new event where we're literally upgrading the gene pool, and we're going to shift everybody in. Because what happens normally is everybody that dies the soul comes out of the body, the soul is collected, and you go to the place of healing if you need healing. That takes time if there's a cataclysm, and if you died a violent death, then that freaks you out, disorients you. You have to heal, and then if you have to heal from the traumas of other things that happen to you on this life, you go there. Once the healing is done, you then go to the place of reflecting, and then you work with your guides and your higher self, and you start designing your next life, even if you're graduating. Now, the reason for this scenario being done the way it's done, because in this solar system, you had Molech and Mars, both of which had large cataclysms that took place on them, and there were beings living on them in 3D at the time. Molech blew up, okay? Those people were damaged slightly from that cataclysm, and it took them a while, and some of them are still here on Earth. They came down here and are still finishing out their cycle. Mars, however, they froze themselves. They using particle beam weapons, they destroyed their civilization, but the souls were trapped for 175,000 years, almost 177,000 years. They were trapped in what would be considered a catatonic state because of that trauma, okay? And they were stuck there, and no one knew they were stuck until one of the souls was able to cry out for help, and then the assistance was rendered, and they were all collected, and some of them are still healing. So that took place about 150,000 years ago, and they're still in the process of healing. Some of them are on Earth currently because they were able to recycle and come on Earth, but many of them are healing still. So because of those scenarios happening around the universe, Fiona, welcome. If you guys don't say anything, Shelly, welcome. If you guys don't say anything in chat, I don't know if you're here. So because of those things happening around the universe in different places, and it taking a long time for souls to heal, then be able to come into a planet again, to speed that up, the scenario, the possibility of the scenario that we're attempting here came into play as a scenario that was possibly viable, because that happens a lot when there's a cataclysm on planets for a culling, for that time of the possibility for people to move on and en masse. So to change that, we're looking into a new way of doing that, and that's what's happening here. So it's an experiment of upgrading the entire species while they're conscious, without most of their knowledge of the change in their physiology. Science is starting to realize that our genome is upgrading. They're realizing that our DNA is upgrading. They don't understand it. They don't know why, so they're tracking it. They don't know what's happening, but they know that something spectacular is happening to our gene pool on the Earth. And what's happening is we are upgrading the gene pool to move everybody who is capable into 4D, the real 4D, not the 4D that everybody's talking about, that we're already in 12D. Not that at all. That's a psychological third dimensional level of third dimension that everybody is confusing with. Actually, we're going all the way into 5D already. That's not an actual thing. It's just a level in 3D that they're going through, getting closer to being able to move into actual fourth dimension, fourth density. We're talking about actually moving into fourth density, because you can't bypass fourth density and go right into fifth density. That's just not there's no upgrade anywhere that allows you to do that. For a species to do what they're doing now, what we're doing here, upgrading and moving them into 4D, is so rare that it's only happened once in this entire galaxy. And that was done by us in another place. The creator seems to like this event because it takes less time for entire species to then continue their journey without having to heal and reflect, because the life that you design becomes 3D, 4D, and then you just move right into that and still learn the same lessons. And then when you die of natural events that happen in 4D, then you go through the normal cycle again and heal and reflect, and then redesign your life with the new upgraded information that you're needing to learn. So this information people didn't know about on this earth at all, and people are starting. You're hearing people starting to talk about it now, because now's the time when we're starting to allow people to feel that or to learn that information. Okay. So I'm checking the chat to see if you guys are saying anything, right? So what do you know about the info about Mars, or why do you know this info about Mars? Penny's asking why I know the information about Mars, if you're talking to me, that is. Chandra says, I feel that I've been sucked here just in this lifetime. I wonder how many times. You're stuck here. You are stuck here. Everybody is stuck here. That part is why we're actually working on what we're learning. So let me address that. Okay. You are stuck here. Everyone on this planet is stuck here for many lifetimes. Nobody has graduated from this earth in more than 77,000 years. Truly. Because the people that are here gained a knowledge of how to keep people trapped here by using the matrix, by taking away your free will, by taking away right in front of your eyes, it's there, by distracting you away from the ascension path. And they've got this place stuck. So you guys know them as the Anunnaki. Everybody says they created the human race. Did not. No alien race created the human race. Human race was created by the creator of the universe, not an alien race in 3D. You're not in a 3D prison run by 3D people. You're in a prison run by the creator of the universe that is a testing ground for baby souls. It is the playpen that you're in, or the pen that you're in. If you've ever had one of those and see those, you put kids in them and there's netting that goes up about 2 feet, and the child is stuck in there, but you can see through the netting and the child can't fall out, and you leave the child in there. And if the child wakes up, the child runs around in there and can't get out. And eventually that child starts standing up in that pen, and eventually the child starts figuring out how to climb over and then falls out onto the ground and then hurts themselves, and the parents hear them crying and they put them back in there. Eventually the child learns how to crawl out, climb out, and fall onto the ground without making a noise, without getting hurt, and then they start scooching around on the ground. When that starts happening, the parents then move the child from having that playpen, or they have to watch the child because the child's going to get out all the time, and then they put you in that little device where you kind of float around in to strengthen your legs. Okay, so this place, third dimension, is the very first place that you are self-aware as a soul. So it's your playpen, and you're trapped here just like you are in that until you learn how to climb out. Okay. So that's what this place's function is. It is the playpen for baby souls that you're supposed to learn how to get out of that trap. And then you start learning how to crawl. Then you start learning how to walk. Then you start learning how to jog, or walk fast, jog, then run, then fly. Okay. So people have learned how to keep people stuck here. Evil people learned how to keep people stuck here because the modus operandi of what we call the Orion Crusaders, who were in Orion, who called themselves that when they left, as the Anunnaki, the Bilderbergers, the Illuminati, down here on this planet. We followed them here, and there's some of us that do that. We follow them, and we free planets that they take control of. They gave the knowledge to the people here on this earth, the oligarchs on this earth that are Luciferians, people who followed that character, that person who was Lucifer, not the devil, that is equal to God. There is no being equal to God, by the way. And Lucifer was a general in the Moldekian army. And Lucifer came down here as a refugee to this planet with a bunch of other people. And they founded the Atlantean society that was living here. The Aborigines Australia called them the crystalline people, because they had crystalline ships. They then got into a civil war with themselves and flipped the earth over on its axis during their civil war and almost destroyed the entire planet. The good guys won, and they stranded the bad guys here, and they left. So you have a group of people that thought the Atlantean left the planet when the war happened, and they saved as many of the humans down here as they could, and the other people were stuck down here, stranded. They took their technology from them, and it became their penal colony, kind of like Australia was, that the English Empire used that island as a penal colony until the people there revolted and kicked the English out and created their own government that they currently have today. Just like the same thing that was happening here in America until the Americans did the same thing and kicked the English out and took control and made their own government. So the same thing happened down here on Earth, and the Moldekians became the Atlanteans, and the evil ones were stranded down here. That's why they can't leave. They were stranded down here, and they tell you their story of them being a penal colony and say that this is a penal colony and you're their slaves. That's the little bit of truth with many lies. So the people from Mars and Moldek, to answer Penny's question, how do I know about the information from Mars? Why do I know this? Because of what happened there when they all got stuck. And the upgrade to fix that, were a whole entire species. There were billions of souls that were on that planet that were stuck for 77,000 years in a catatonic state. They're immortal souls. And it wasn't until someone came out of that state long enough to cry out for help that anyone found out about it. Because of that happening, the creator of the universe decided that there should be a new scenario that would be put into place so that we wouldn't have to have that sort of thing happen. So we have places like this that get stuck, but it's not due to a cataclysm. And And so this place is stuck. So we decided to, at this place, at this time, change the genome and upgrade people so that we didn't have to worry about that scenario happening again, where we had to, kill a bunch of people or have them kill themselves and get caught or have something happen, right? Paulie, welcome. Shelly, welcome. I don't know if I said hi to you guys when you came in. Fiona, welcome. So the scenario that's happening here is, instead of the natural order of things, which would normally be a third world war down here, because we've had two, or a volcano eruption or a meteor strike, we still may have that in 2030. Apophis is supposed to come down here and strike the planet anyways. And if that goes according to Hoyle, it's supposed to hit a dead center of the Indian Ocean. It's going to cause a lot of calamity at the time when that happens anyways. A lot of people are going to die from the tsunamis and the problems with the atmosphere and things like that. So, but it's not going to be as bad as if it were in the middle of a war going on. And they've been trying to press that prophecy because they want to cull the planet, because they want people to die so that they reset again, because they don't want the people upgrading and taking away their power. So they're trying to blow the place up, nuke the place, do whatever they can, cause a world war, the evil people, that is, because they want everybody to go back to sleep and recycle. Okay, so we're stopping them from doing that. They haven't been successful in doing that. So they tried to do it with COVID. They tried to take control of the earth. They're desperate now in their death throes, and we're changing that and not allowing them to do that. And we're fixing things as we go. We're fixing the planet, and we're fixing everything. Is that Dennis? Dennis, welcome. Did I miss anybody? I was looking at the chat. So, so you're saying that Dennis is typo negative. Yeah, I'm also typo negative. So is Brooke, if she's still here, is typo negative as well. There's a correlation with that too, but I won't get into that right away. Let me see if there's anything else that I see here. So things have been happening. Yeah, so Chandra's answering. Things have been happening. That's been happening forever. So we're trying to upgrade the genome so that we don't have to. Joanne, welcome. So we don't have to have a Stargate Apophis. Well, they call it Apophis. That's funny that you said that, Shelley. But yeah, they call it Apophis because Apophis was the chronicler of death, the bringer of doom. So in prophecy, they call that meteor Apophis. That's not what they call it. I was just talking to Brooke's son about that because he just learned about it, and it has a designation that we know about, and it is in an orbit around the sun, and it comes by the Earth. And every time it comes by the Earth, they have to track it when they can see it coming around the sun to find out if its course is going to bring it into a collision course with the Earth. And it came pretty close the last time it was here, and they're not quite sure. They don't think it's going to hit the Earth, but it's going to be coming back by in 2030, and it's going to be really close. So it could, if one little thing changes its course, its trajectory, it could slam into the Earth. And it's the size of it's almost the size of a Volkswagen. I think they're trying to tell people it's the size of a dishwasher, but it's a little bigger than that. It's just a little bit bigger than a dishwasher. It's as big as a Volkswagen Bug, one of those old bugs from the 40s all the way up to the 70s until they discontinued them. But that, slamming into the Earth, it's going to be a kind of a hard thing, right? So there's going to be issues there. But we're trying to, yes, I don't know, Dennis, but yes. Chandra's saying that. Let me put that up on the screen, right? So, yes. I'm also unveiled, completely unveiled in this lifetime, right? Brooke is here, right? So, yeah. So, so you have the people who believe they own this planet, and Dennis, you would know about that, right? Oneg, Dennis is Oneg, right? So am I. My whole family's Oneg, by the way, weirdly. Everybody in my family's Oneg. Every time someone else goes, I wonder what blood type I am out of my family, and they chest it, their Oneg. So I have an entire Oneg clan, both sides of the family. my mother and my father's side, Oneg. So the oligarchs who believe they own this planet were put into in charge here. Woo Riders, welcome. I see there's you and Riz Nation over there on YouTube. Show this out, guys. So when the Orion Crusaders, you know them as the Anunnaki, when they got here, they gave the information to the people down here on Earth. It didn't hurt that didn't help that Ra also gave information that they used and usurped, and they took control of the matrix here by just distracting everybody and not letting them see the tools that they need to ascend. And in doing so, they solidified the control over this planet. And when we got here to fix that, we are the Patal. And when we got here to fix that, they ran. So those who everyone keeps claiming is going to return are not going to return. They headed towards the center of the Milky Way galaxy on their conquest. They captured 23 third-dimensional planets in this sector of the Milky Way galaxy, and all but two of them, one now, all of them but one are freed. This planet is not considered freed because the culling hasn't been capable of happening yet. They're freed from occupation, but the insane asylum is now being run by the insane people. So you have the oligarchs that are down here, the descendants of the Luciferians, who came from Maldek, the last of the Atlanteans, who were the evil ones that were stranded here. Their people, their descendants, are in charge of all the governments of this world. And if you saw Above Majestic, that came out in I think it was 2018 in this reality. The reality that I came from, it started in 2017. But when I looked it up not too long ago, it was released in 2018 in this reality. So since the timeline has shifted, it changed. However, if you haven't seen that documentary Above Majestic, you should see that, because in that, a little girl who was like 12 years old was doing her DNA when Barack Obama was the president of the United States. And she thought, oh, I wonder who Barack Obama was related to. And then she started realizing, and she was the one who mapped it, that all the presidents of the United States, except for one, not to be named, and it's not Donald Trump because he's actually related to them all as well. They were all related. They're all cousins. So the guys from Above Majestic, when they were doing that documentary, they looked into that to further that. And who are they all related to? And they realized, and they talk about that. David Wilcock talks about that in Above Majestic, where they found that they all go back to the D'Este clan in one of the Merovingian kings in France. And those people had elongated skulls. And that goes back, and so the Ancient Aliens group, who I'm friends with, because I created Ancient Aliens Worldwide on Facebook back in 2012, and all of the people from the television show are members of that and friends of mine. They Graham Hancock and the like, and Stephen and Evan Strong in Australia were able to procure elongated skulls, and what's his name, Giorgio Tsoukalos, at one point with Childress, were able to go to the Smithsonian and also get one of the elongated skulls, and they proved that all of them are related. And they found that all of the monarchs, all of the people in charge of every government on this planet, are all cousins. Those people are the descendants of the Luciferians, who were given the knowledge by the Anunnaki of how to keep everybody trapped here. So if you feel like you're tired and you feel like you've been trapped on this earth for a very long time, you have. Depending on when you got here, you've been trapped here since you got here. Okay. So if you got here, if you're on your 4th lifetime, then that's nothing to you, because it takes 7 to 10 lifetimes to graduate anyway. But if you're on your 30th lifetime and you know it, you feel like it, you are. Okay. I've been here for a very long time, and I came here to help. So some of you have been stuck longer than I've been on the planet, and there's a lot of us that are here. 86% of the population of this earth currently is not from here. Their souls are from another place, and they have come here to actually help. That's why the population of this earth in 1981 was 2.57 billion people, and it is now 8 billion. And that's only been 45 years, right? 44 years. So in 44 years, the population of this earth is exponentially grown because people have come here to witness this, to be one of the first souls to go through this, So that's why there's so many people now here, but you also have so many people that are confused and tired and not capable of continuing and having problems with that because they're just not ready. Then those people are going to be the ones that it's not going to matter too much because they'll just die a natural death, and then they'll move to another third dimensional planet, because third dimensional life is not supposed to be currently on this earth anymore. This earth itself, this planet, has outlived that and has gone away from that. So it's supposed to be first dimensional, second dimensional, fourth dimensional, and eighth dimensional beings on this earth, not third dimensional. But because of who we are, right, you're an immortal soul and you're actually part of the creator. We're holding the planet here. And that's why the planet's having some issues. And you're seeing the large storms, and everybody's just claiming that it's us doing it because of climate change, and we're, cow farts in our cars are causing it. It's not true. We, just by being here, are causing that to happen. So some of us are aware of that, and we're healing the earth. We're calming Gaia down and healing her and letting her know that we're transitioning, because she's not conscious. She's just a planetary body. So she's not self-aware. She's conscious, but not self-aware. So she doesn't understand what's happening. So we're calming her down, giving her good energy and loving energy, and we're fixing the problem, and we're upgrading the DNA pool of the humans that are on this so that we can transition everybody instantaneously. Most people are not going to remember it at all. If you remember the Mandela effects in life, and you know some of those, then I've never read that book. Dennis said it sounds like things from the what is that, Urantia book? I've never read that. I'm going to have to look that up. I'm going to put that in my phone so I can actually look up what that is. I've never read that. Who was that written by? Was it written by somebody who was awake, or was it written as a sci-fi story? I've never heard of it, which is weird because I am a theologian. So I try to read every religion or every spiritual practice. So I'm going to look that book up. So I'm putting that in my phone so that I can look that up later. Did I spell that right? Yes, I did. Okay. So thank you for that. I will look into that and find out what knowledge it is that you're talking about there. So, so that all of this has happened and it's been taken away from you, and you're unaware of it. So when we transition, let me get back to that. If you remember Mandela effects, and especially the really large ones, when people bring them up, there's a reason that you're remembering them. You're either already able to graduate but stuck here, or you're a wanderer. You're somebody who came here from a higher plane of existence to help, and either way, you might be veiled, and you may not know that you are that soul. Most of the souls that are here, 86% of the population, they don't remember that they are actually here to help or to witness this. Because when you get here, you're veiled. That's why evil people in service to self, will not become wanderers. 99.99999% of them will never do it because they're self-serving, because that's a sacrifice. You will come down here. If you come down here legally, you will come down here and you will come into a body, and you'll be born here like everybody else, and you'll be mind wiped. You will have no memory, and you may never wake up. You may never remember why you're here, and you may stay stuck with all these people until they get themselves out of being stuck. No one that's self-serving wants to go through that and even do that. They're like, no, thank you, moving on. Okay. So Dennis Horton, he reads from Raw. I'm not exactly sure from where, but love this group. Yeah, I'm going to play some of Raw. That's what we're doing here. We're on session 81, and I'm going to use that because Raw is part of the Orion Coalition, or the Orion a Council of Light. I am part of that council, but I am down here on Earth with a contingent of people. So we are the Orion Coalition of Light. Coalition is boots on the ground, legally bound souls who got permission from the Council of Planets, the Galactic Council, to descend and to come into a human body naturally. the way things are supposed to be done, and we're down here. We're not walk-ins. There wasn't someone else occupying the soul, this body, before I took control of it. I was born with this body, designed this life, designed my body, designed everything that was going to happen to me, and came down here. And and I'm unveiled in this lifetime. In past lives, I was not unveiled, but I designed this life to be completely unveiled so that I can do what I'm doing. But I did not expose myself and allow people to know who I am and that I've been unveiled my entire life until 3 years ago, because it wasn't time. And even then I resisted it. You can ask Peter Coyle if he's still here, right? Right. I know, Joanne, I said the same thing. Who wrote that book? I didn't look it up. Joanne said, who wrote that book? The Orantia. I think I've heard of it, but I haven't read it. So I'll check what you guys are saying. So if you guys are making comments, so Oneg is the blood type of Ra. Yes. This is the Patal. Ra, that the hive mind complex calls themselves Ra, but they are the Patal. Okay. I am the Patal. We are the Patal. Okay. So some people know us as that, and because they don't know us as the Ra consciousness. So so more people understand the Patal than they do the Ra consciousness. So the Ra consciousness is the personality of the Patal. So and that DNA has only been here for 10,000 years. They haven't found it anywhere else on the world past 10,000 years ago. That's why I came through in this body that I'm in, purposely so that I designed this life. Jan, welcome. I designed this life O positive. So you still have O. You just that just means that you're someone in your family is bred with somebody because you have some African DNA in you. It's not a bad thing that you have African DNA in you, but you are type O. So you can also, you're also one of those universal donors for blood. So the DNA, as above, so below, right? It's actually as below, so above, as within, so without, but everyone knows it the corrupted way, as above, so below, as without, so within. That gives you the idea that there's a caste system and that God's in charge and that you have nothing to say about that. But even in the Bible, in Matthew 18, verse 18, I think it is, in there, Jesus is talking, he says that God said, what you sow on earth, I shall too sow in heaven. What you reap on earth, I shall too reap in heaven. That means as below, so above, not as above, so below. Not do as I say. It means what you do there, I will honor in heaven, and I will do that same thing in heaven. So it's telling you that the actual terminology was as below, so above, as within, so without, not as above, so below. That's the corruption, as above, so below. So how it works is when people come here and get boots on the ground, it's not something where aliens came down here and this is a petri dish and they're adding their DNA to it. When you get boots on the ground, there has to be a representation of you on the planet. So when we came here to the earth, there had to be a representation of us. So it appears in your history here that we arrived 10,000 years ago. We actually arrived further back than that, but it appears in the gene pool as 10,000 years ago. Okay, so that's why the different races that are here, whenever somebody gets boots on the ground, there is an echo of that race who comes here if they come here in a 3D or a 4D form. So even when you come as a 6D, say, soul and move into the body, there has to be a representation and echo so it's imprinted on the people, because there are people who pay attention to that from a higher planes, and they will come to planets and they'll know who's on the planet because of the fingerprint of all the people that are there, all the souls that are there. But most people don't know that. So in any case, so the Aryan race, or the type O negative race that comes from primarily the west coast of Spain, is that origin. Okay, that's why you have Asians and Japanese and Chinese and the different Asians and the different Africans and all the different races and how they're all subsections of each other in their DNA. Okay. So yeah, Dennis said that echoes are the copies, clones, the one spirit of Ta, or you were saying Ra, occupy. So. And that there is some of that too, like with the grays, the mini gray aliens. Some of them are actually robots. They're actually AI. They don't have a soul. And you see that play out like with Whitley Strieber's book Communion, where he asked the Greys that were abducting him, "What do you want?" And they said communion. They were looking for a way of creating the spark of God, the pneuma, the breath of God. They were trying to figure out how to create an immortal soul because they don't have one. Not all Greys are that way, but there are like 3 that are here that have been interacting with the Earth out of the 7 different species that people are unaware of. That 3 of them are actually are just AI that is conscious, that is self-aware. So they're trying to figure out how to make themselves immortal because they have that problem with the degradation of the clone. As you clone a clone, it breaks down. So they need an upgrade to the DNA. So they're using human DNA to upgrade, and they're also trying to figure out if they can create an immortal soul so that they can sustain their species. Okay, so yes, we are. We are. Dennis said we're animating more than one avatar. Yes, we are. You're actually, every person that you are in every lifetime, you're actually animating all at the exact same time. So if you go and do a life regression and you find out that you were whatever, King Tut, or just, like my case, I was a bank robber in the Old West here in the United States. I got gunned down trying to rob a place. I was robbing a bank, and my gang came out, and the people of the town shot us up, and I got peppered and died in the street. Right? I wasn't awake in that lifetime, and I didn't live long enough to become awake in that lifetime. I was a bank robber, and I got killed. So when you do that, once you get outside of time, because the time only exists in the first, second, and third dimension, we're moving so fast, we're moving almost at the speed of light, in which case time gets stretched as we're moving that fast. And so you have a past, a present, and a future. When you are your immortal soul and you get outside of this physical plane, there is no time. Time is the distance it takes for the physical body to go from one place to another. So truly, every lifetime that you are occupying a body in, that personality that is a fracture of your higher self, which is rooted in the 6th, halfway through the 6th density, is happening all at once for your higher self, for your beingness. It's happening all at one time, just like all of this is happening instantaneously in the mind of the creator. So we're, the as above, so below. So literally, if you've been on the earth and you've had 10 lifetimes, they're actually all happening at the exact same time. You're perceiving them as each individual in that stretched time. So when you're in each body, you think it's now for that character that you're playing at that particular time in that avatar. But when you pull back to the Akashic record or move into the other body, your consciousness with your attention, you can see that everything's happening at the exact same time. It's just that you don't perceive it that way when you're in a different time down here on Earth. That's a quantum weirdness when it comes to that. Right. So that's, for some people, that's kind of weird to even grasp the concept of that. Jamie, welcome. Denise, welcome. Did I miss anybody? If I missed you guys, I apologize. So, and, right. Yeah. Okay. Dennis said that we are center. Let me put this up on the screen. We are center, and above is above us, and the below is below us. We are center to all. Yes. I have a video for the Orion Coalition of Light where I tell you in there that your light is the center of the universe. It's exactly the same, because all of this is an illusion. And in truth, let's go all the way up there, Dennis. In truth, you, me, all of this is all happening only in the mind of the creator. It's a daydream. I'm not real. My soul's not actually real. None of this is real. None of this is happening. It just thinks it's happening. I'm not actually happening. I just think I'm happening, because the universe is within me and without me all at the same time, because we are the universe, because the universe is us, because this is all just our daydream as the creator of the universe, living vicarious through all of these experiences that are happening down here. So let's go to 8D thinking there, really high up and track that. that concept is almost insane for most humans on this earth to even follow me too. Some people are capable of doing that, but most just deny that when I say that. They're like, yeah, no, yeah, right, I'm God, you're God, we're all God. Yeah, actually you are, but you don't know that down here because you're not supposed to know it yet. When you're veiled, you don't know it. So everything that I'm saying now will be so foreign to you, you'll think that I'm making it up. I'm not saying you, Dennis, that you're thinking that, because you're not. Obviously, you're more awake because of the comments that you've made. But the average person listening to my voice around the world, or if you've tuned in for the first time, if you're still here, you might have a little bit more, interesting thought processes going on and be more awake. But if you think I'm crazy and you've already left, the reason for that is because you're completely veiled and you're not anywhere near capable of understanding anything that I'm talking about. It's nothing against any of those people. That's just where they are in their development currently. And that also doesn't mean that they're a brand new soul either, because they could be doing it in reverse. They could have already did all of the higher chakras and they could be living in the lower chakras because that's what they're brushing up on. So just because somebody is walking around like a gorilla doesn't mean they actually are, and that they're brand new. They could be just going backwards, and this is where they happen to be focusing currently. Okay, so let me get back on point, and then I'm going to play a little. Let me get back on point. I'm going to play some more Raw, because now I've spent almost 45 minutes away from Raw talking just to go down this road. But if you guys have any questions and you want me to address something, please state that in the chat, and I will make sure that I didn't miss something. Because sometimes I do that if I don't have my glasses on, I don't read the chat and I don't know if you guys are asking me questions. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and press play. Fiona says, I'm still here. I'm packing 10 kilos of grapes. Grapes? Yeah. Of grapes. Welcome. Okay. So working, but listening, right? All right, good. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and play some more of Raw. And then I'll continue with your guys' questions and continue further. And I know that for some of you who might be tuning in for the first time, if you're not already privy to some of this information, it may sound really crazy to you. It's okay, because if you're here and you're not immediately taking off because you think I'm nuts, then that means you're actually ready to hear this information, and that's why we're talking about it. So let's get back to Raw here, and we'll take another. And any questions that you guys have or comments, please go ahead and put them in the chat, because that's the only way I know that what you guys want me to talk about. Otherwise, we'll just talk about what Raw's talking about, okay?
And finally, the 14th, the way of the body is called the alchemist because there is an infinity of time for the various bodies to operate within to learn the lessons necessary for evolution. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is less than completely correct, as the great way of the body must be seen, as are all the archetypes of the body, to be a mirror image of the thrust of the activity of the mind. The body is the creature of the mind and is the instrument of manifestation for the fruits of mind and spirit. Therefore, you may see the body as providing the aether through which the alchemist manifests gold. 81.15 Questioner, I have guessed that a way that I could enter into a better comprehension of the development experience that is central to our work, is to compare what we experience now, after the veil was dropped, with what was experienced prior to that time, starting possibly as far back as the beginning of this octave of experience, to see how we got into the condition we're in now. If this is agreeable, I would like to retreat to the very beginning of this octave of experience to investigate the conditions of mind, body, and spirit as they evolved in this octave.
Okay, see, so we're kind of going down that road. I was talking about that, talking about Moldek and the takeover by the Orion Crusaders. You guys know them as the Anunnaki, or the Illuminati, or the Bilderbergers, or the Skull and Bones, those secret societies. So now Dawn's asking Ra. So Ra's going to start talking about the condition of the human genome here, the human species, and the hive mind complex that makes up this earth as the human species. And so you're going to hear that. And that's, so I wasn't off topic. I usually get ahead of myself, especially if I'm channeling, and I'm right on the verge of letting that go at this point. I was doing it a few minutes ago. That's why I take my glasses off, so you guys can see my eyes, because those of you who have the eyes, the sight to be able to see, you can tell when I'm channeling and when I'm not. If I put these on, you see more glare. And so that's, unfortunately for me, I can't read the chat because without my glasses, I have to back up to about there to be able to read it. So I look weird doing this, trying to read the chat. So I put these on to find out what you guys are talking about, and then I take these off so you can actually see my eyes. And that's why I try to look at the camera while I'm talking, especially when I'm channeling, so you can see the difference in the color of my eyes and the difference in where I am. If you know of anybody when they're channeling, you know that. I'm not channeling a separate entity. When I channel, I'm channeling my higher self. I'm channeling me, talking from the Akashic records when I do that. And those of you who know me know that I do that. I do it all the time. I do that when I work with you individually. You guys know that. On the Zoom call on Wednesdays, I also do that because there you guys can actually talk to me and ask questions. So I don't have to read the chat. I just have to pay attention to who has their hand up on the Zoom call. That's not on the air and it's not being recorded. So if there's questions that you guys have and want to ask, Wednesdays, my Wednesday, I'm in California, United States. If you're in Australia, that's your Thursday, 3 p.m. my time, which is 19 hours. You guys are 19 hours ahead of me in Australia, or if you're on the East Coast of Australia, depending on where you are in Australia, that changes. So you'd have to look that up. I'm GMT, currently GMT -8, I think, but it's changing this weekend. We're doing the time change. So I'm usually GMT -7. So if you guys know what that timeline is for you, those of you who are in the UK, I'm 8 hours behind you because you're GMT +1. Okay. Yeah, Chandra, if you want to get into that, it's on Wednesdays. If you're not on the law in the law of one, just let us know if you need us to give you the link to that, and I can link it to you personally in Messenger so that you can come in, or it'll be in the law of one, and I tag everyone. So even if you have your notifications turned off, so you don't get the bing, bing, bing every time someone posts something, you'll still get a notification on your phone, or just set a reminder for yourself that 3 p.m. Wednesday, 3 p.m. West Coast America time, GMT -7. I do that Zoom call and I talk to you guys there and answer any question that you have about anything. It doesn't have to be about the law of one. It can be about anything spiritual. It can be about anything geopolitical. It can be about anything life coaching. I do all of that. I have all of those credentials, and I've been coaching people and teaching people since I was 18. Started when I was about 14 or 15, but I don't count that because I didn't have like the Merlin title yet. I got that when I was 19 from my father. So, and I wasn't a minister until 2004, and then 2016, 2004 for the Catholic Church, and 2016 for the Universal Life Church in Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome, Peter. So it's 7 p.m. right now for you. So yeah, and it's he says it's 7 p.m. Irish Standard Time. So yeah, you're ahead of me by, that's only 4 hours. That can't be right, Peter. You got to be later than that right now. Or you're saying that's when it is on the Wednesday. Yeah. So it would be 7 p.m. on the Wednesday because it's 3 p.m. my time. So it would be right. I'm not sure. I'm still, now you got me confused because you're saying 7 p.m. Because that doesn't sound right. Okay. So let me go back to what Ra's doing and with Ra's conversation, and then we'll go from here, okay?
Is this satisfactory? Acceptable? Ra, I am Ra. The direction of questions is your provenance. 81.16 Questioner, RA states that it has knowledge of only this octave, but it seems that RA has complete knowledge of this octave. Can you tell me why this is? Ra, I am Ra. Firstly, we do not have complete knowledge of this octave. There are portions of the seventh density which, although described to us...
Chandra, I create the Zoom meeting every week, so it is, I believe it's a different meeting number because I don't keep the same one open. So far as I know, I just go there and host. So because I don't download the app. Because I know that Jacqueline Taylor does that to where it's the same one, and if you have the link once, you can always get in. I've never looked at the link to find out if it is in fact the same one because I don't hold it open. I pay for it so we can go as long as we want, but I go online on the computer because I don't want to download the app because everybody wants you to have an app. I already have 68 apps on my phone, so I don't even do it on my computer. I just go online to zoom.com, and then when I get there, I push host a Zoom meeting, and it automatically logs me into my account that I pay for, and then I just copy and paste the link. So if you want to come in on Wednesday, just remind me in Messenger, and when I open the meeting, I can link it to you in Messenger personally. That way you'll remember it. But you have to remind me to do that so that I remember to do that. So send me a message in Messenger saying, Leo, don't forget to give me the Zoom call in here so I have the option. And then when I open the room, I can link it to you there and put it in the Law of One chat. Because if you're not in the Law of One chat, Law of One class chat on Messenger, I think you're in there, Chandra, but I don't remember if you're still in there because I think you might have left. So that's why you message me personally on Messenger, and I'll link it to you on Wednesday so you can come in, okay? Okay, so let me go back to this. Sorry, I wanted to address that. And so any of you that is here, that if you guys want to join the chat, it's a chat on Messenger where we talk about just about everything in there. And you can ask questions and people will answer them for you in there. But you'll probably have to turn the notifications off because it is worldwide and people are on there all hours of the day and night. So it'll blow up your phone. Bing, 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 bing. So I just turn off the notification sound so that when it gives me a notification, it just comes up on my phone and it doesn't bing my phone because the conversations can go on. It's not like a million people in the group, but sometimes the conversations will go on for quite a while and it can get annoying if your phone's constantly going off. Okay, so let's continue, okay?
By our teachers, remain mysterious. Secondly, we have experienced a great deal of the available refining catalyst of this octave, and our teachers have worked with us most carefully that we may be one with all, that in turn our eventual returning to the great allness of creation shall be complete. 81.17 Questioner. Then RA has knowledge from the first beginnings of this octave through its present experiences, what I might call direct or experiential knowledge through communication with those space/times and time/spaces, but has not yet evolved to or penetrated the 7th level. Is this a roughly correct statement? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. 81.18 Questioner. Why does RA not have any knowledge of that which was prior to the beginning of this octave? Ra, I am Ra. Let us compare octaves to islands. It may be that the inhabitants of an island are not alone upon a planetary sphere, but if an ocean-going vehicle in which one may survive has not been invented, true knowledge of other islands is possible only if an entity comes among the islanders and says, I am from elsewhere. This is a rough analogy. However, we have evidence of this sort, both of previous creation and creation to be, as we in the stream of space/time and time/space view these apparently non-simultaneous events. 81.19 Questioner. Well, we presently find ourselves in the Milky Way galaxy of some 200 or so million 200 or so billion stars, and there are millions and millions of these large galaxies spread out through what we call space.
Okay, so listen to that. Okay, so 200 billion stars, and there's hundreds of millions of these galaxies in the universe. Okay, so if you do the math equation, it's more possible that there are aliens out there in the universe than there is that there's not, right? The odds are way greater. Oh no, the entire universe was created just for the humans. That's the most arrogant thing I've ever heard in my entire existence. And trust me, I've been around for a very long time. Okay, right? Let's continue here.
To Ra's knowledge, I assume, the number of these galaxies is infinite. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is precisely correct and is a significant point. 81.20 Questioner. The point being that we have unity. Is that correct? Ra, I am Ra. You are perceptive. 81.21 Questioner. Then what portion of these galaxies is RA aware of? Has RA experienced consciousness in many other of these galaxies? Ra, I am Ra. No. 81.22 Questioner. Does RA have any experience or knowledge of or travel to, in one form or another, any of these other galaxies? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. 81.23 Questioner.
Right, so think about that, right? So Ra, who is moving into the 7th density currently, some say the 5th, but Ra's a hive mind complex. That's a little bit higher grouping. They're aware of more than just the Milky Way galaxy because they're a lot more expansive than people realize, right? So there's a group of people that travel around to do this, it's part of the ascension. And I talked about this last week. Like we here in third dimension have pets. We're assisting them to become self-aware faster by having pets and giving them names and talking to them and treating them like they are something. They become self-aware and realize they have self-worth. And that helps them to ascend to become on this planet a human or a dolphin or a whale or a couple other species that most people don't believe in. And then they start their journey being veiled and being self-aware. Above this level, people come back down to this level. Above that level, people come back down to that level. And that continues all the way back to source. And the source, the creator of the universe, is doing the same thing. The creator of the universe is coming down to all levels. Okay. So that's a reoccurring cyclical nature of nature, where you move up and a certain percentage of the population that are in service to others will then descend back down and help the ones below in some way, some through channeling, some through regression and going down physically into a body. But as you get into the higher planes, it becomes more through channeling, that contact with people through extrasensory perception, that you start assisting the lower levels. That's just the way that the universe was set up. So it's the cyclical nature, the Fibonacci sequence, the Fibonacci spiral that is playing out there, where as above, so below. So that's where you get the Merkaba, where you have the masculine and feminine energy spinning at opposite directions. So one energy, the 3 energy going, say, outward, 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 and then the 6 energy going inward, 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 and then the 9 energy that ropes them back on themselves so that they instantaneously change and start spinning the other direction and go inward instead of outward. And that's what creates the globe that we have, the torus effect, with the hole in the center, because the 0 point is where the two meet again. So they go out, come back in, and then meet again at the center and transfer and go out and come back in. And it becomes the cycle that turns into the Vesica Pisces at some point, with the 0 point being the heart chakra even of the planet. All right, let's continue.
It's unimportant, but just roughly how many other of these galaxies has Ra, shall we say, traveled to? Ra, I am Ra. We have opened our hearts in radiation of love to the entire creation. Approximately 90% of the creation is at some level aware of the sending and able to reply. All of the infinite logoi are one in the consciousness of love. This is the type of contact which we enjoy rather than travel. 81.24 Questioner, so that I can just get a little idea of what I am talking about. What are the limits of Ra's travel in the sense of directly experiencing or seeing the activities of various places? Is it solely within this galaxy, and if so, how much of this galaxy? Or does it include some other galaxies? Ra, I am Ra. Although it would be possible for us to move at will throughout the creation within this logos, that is to say, the Milky Way galaxy, so-called, we have moved where we were called to service, these locations being, shall we say, local and including Alpha Centauri, planets of your solar system which you call the Sun, Cepheus, and Zeta Reticuli. To these sub-logoi we have come, having been called. 81.25 Questioner.
Right, so that's a few of the different places that I was referring to on the of the 23 solar systems that we were needed to be in to help free them and to help. Because not all, there's a lot that happens. This happens naturally. It occurs from time to time where people get themselves stuck. That's normal. It's a part of the matrix. It was designed that way by the creator so that people from a higher plane would then be motivated to come down to help people because they're in service to others. So those people who are in service to others would be more prone to do that. So it's an opportunity for them, which spawns that. It's a catalyst for them to come down and do that. And that sets the example for the people of the lower plane. Same thing when you have a pet. That pet becomes a human. If that pet becomes a human that is in service to others, they're going to instinctively, their higher self, their higher self is going to know that you did that, set that example for them. So they'll be more prone. It's only 10% of the population that will descend and do those things. That's the kind of the dynamic, at least here on this earth. Like 14% of the population is evil. and all the rest, the 86% is in service to others. So 14% is in service to self, and 1% of that 14% is the ruling class that believes that they own this planet. That's the dynamic. That dynamic changes depending on the third dimensional ecosphere that is set up by the people of whatever planet exists where 3D life works. So you could go to a 3D life planet where 90% of the population is evil. You could also go to one where 90% or above would be in service to others. So but on this Earth, it hovers right around 14%, kind of floats back and forth. Even with the amount of people here that are 86% of the population that are good, that hasn't changed a lot. So there's a slight realignment that happened where more people are in service to self, but less apt to try and take over, because you have that 1% has solidified their power structure here because of the knowledge that they gained from the Orion Crusaders that you call the Anunnaki. Okay, let's continue here.
Was the call in each instance from the third density beings, or was this call from additional or other densities? Ra, I am Ra. In general, the latter supposition is correct. In the particular
to answer your question, Penny, that's kind of a big question. It happens naturally, right? So Penny says, if we didn't treat others with love would not spread as it does. Love's still going to spread the way it does, with or without conscious spreading of it. So, however, it spreads faster when people are exuding love. So yes, and I don't want to be like snarky like Ra is. With that answer, you're partially right and not in that statement, because it's going to happen anyway, because people who are in service to others, even if they're unaware of it and they're not purposely trying to do it, they're going to do it because they're in service to others. So it sets its course. And also evil people, whether they like it or not, because they don't like it, and they serve the all by what they're doing. They realign people and show people what not to do, and it gives the people who are in service to others lessons to teach their young by saying that's wrong and we don't do that. And then when they do it, it scares them. It's the boogeyman effect that scares them and drives them the other way. That's why you can't have an alien invasion, a true alien invasion. And I say that because the deep state of this world has a fake one that they're thinking about rolling out. And they keep threatening to do it. But we're getting the population to be aware of it, so that if they try it, no one's going to buy it. Some people will, because they have no idea and they don't believe in aliens, and spaceships show up and start blasting things. They're going to freak out. And then, because that's what they're trying to teach everybody anyway. All the movies and all the stories have aliens coming to eat you and coming to get you and take over and all that. So it spreads fear in all the sci-fi fans throughout generations. So you get a generational fear base that is going on from all those movies, or people are just afraid instinctively of that idea because the aliens are going to come and cook us and eat us. And that way, if they roll out the fake alien invasion, then you'll do that. So if someone came down here and tried to invade, what will happen is the population of this planet will align against them. So people who are evil on this earth don't want someone else cutting into their action. So if a true alien invasion happened of the planet Earth, the entire population of the Earth would then polarize against them to repel them and fight against them. So they would have to come down here and take over completely and put everybody into slave chains. But the population would then be working as a whole to restore the balance. This equilibrium would that's naturally set up in the universe to do that. So the modus operandi of the Orion Crusaders, the Anunnaki, you know them as, when they came down here, they didn't come down and get boots on the ground like everybody thinks, because that would have happened. That alignment would have happened. So what they did was they came down here and gave knowledge to the people that were already here. So they come down and they say, oh, there's this alien race and we can save you, but you have to let us come down there. Free will. You have to allow them. You have to open the door for the vampire. Then they get boots on the ground, but they only come down here in a small contingent, because they know that if they come down in a large force, everybody will spontaneously switch to the other side. It's a chaos theory, like with animals. If they're all females in a paddock, some of the females will spontaneously turn into males so that they can breed. That's been proven in history. Fish do it all the time. Okay. Salmon do it, and other fish do that, where they spontaneously, they're asexual, and they spontaneously become men when there's not enough men so that they can propagate. Same thing happens with good and evil in the ecosystem that was set up by the creator of the universe, okay? So they have to do it a different way. They have to come down and give a knowledge to the people that are down here so that they don't screw with free will, because the second they infringe on free will will shift the people. So that's the way it works in all ideology. By the way. So with love, the same thing occurs. So people who are evil still serve the all. They serve the greater good with the crap that they do, like COVID. Joanne is still here. Her and I have talked about this several times. One of the best things that happened to this earth was COVID. And people get mad at me when I say that. But you're seeing the effects of COVID that has changed the course of the world in the last 4 years because of COVID. You see a large realignment against the people who are trying to obviously take control of the earth by draconian measures with COVID. And the population of the earth, irrespective of a political party or a non-political mindset of the humans that are on this planet, have realigned against the very people who were trying to propagate that, because that was one of their death throes that they were desperate to do. In 2030, they're going to try and do it again. Why? Apophis is supposed to come near the earth, if not even hit the earth. So in 2030, you're going to see another disease, quote unquote, pop up that's going to be just like COVID with a different name, that's going to be popped up, and it'll be COVID 2.0 or 3.0 or 10.0. And that'll be in the year 2030. So in the year 2030, you're going to have another strife time here, and it's going to be the last death rolls of the evil empire that believes they own this earth, and they're trying to cull this planet one more time to get everybody to go back to sleep, but they can't do it anymore because we outnumber them just by sheer numbers. Even though 80 of the 86% of the population that is not actually from here, most of them probably somewhere around the same percentage, 86 to 88% of them are completely veiled and don't even remember why they're here. They haven't woke up enough to do that yet. By 2030, that's going to change. There's going to be a lot more people awake. Okay. So yeah. So if you guys have any more questions, let me know. I'm going to start playing Raw again, and I'm going to check your guys' remarks in the chat in case you guys want to say something else, right? Yeah, remarkable. What is it? Shelly says remarkable if they are not too programmed. Yeah, right. Because people forget even COVID. Yeah. And that's what will happen in 2030. People will forget about COVID. By then, it'll be so far behind us that with our attention span, the attention span of people, because of what they're doing with the phones and television programming and movies, people's attention span is already off of COVID to where they don't think about it anymore. So 2030 is another 5 years from now. So most people on this earth aren't even going to think about COVID by that time. And they're going to have something called, and it's going to be called, they won't call it COVID, because if they do, people are going to go, here we go again. And it'll immediately realign back to the attitude of right now. So they'll have to call it something else. They'll have a new name for it, and it'll be a completely different virus, but it'll be something similar, but it'll be a different name, but it'll do basically the same thing. It's going to kill people. And they're going to try and do everything they can do to kill as many people as they can, just like they lied about COVID. If you paid attention, in whatever government, whatever country that you live in, no one died from influenza during COVID because they were calling it all COVID. They did that in every country. I was one of the people that was tracking that around the world, and we were publishing that to the world in all the countries and getting deleted off the internet for informing you guys of that, because they were also trying to control the internet. We're controlling the internet to keep people. So we started sending it to people through encrypted apps and through emails that they couldn't control, so that we could still get the information out to people so they could post videos and start new accounts that they knew were going to get taken down, and post the videos and get deplatformed. I was deplatformed from Google. All Google products deplatformed me 3 years ago. What's today? Today's the 7th. 3 years ago, 4 days ago, exactly 3 years to the day, 4 days ago. No, tomorrow, because it was the 8th when I came home. So tomorrow will be the 3-year anniversary of Google deplatforming me, and they eradicated more than 500 episodes of my podcast off of my YouTube channel. Not a joke. Okay. because of that very thing. They were going backwards and looking up some of the stuff that I posted 2 years prior, and they were doxing me for the things that I had already posted. I see people having the same problem with people today. So they deplatformed me on Google, all Google products. I had to start a new email address, start a new account so I could even search on the search engine of Google. And that was on the 8th of March, 3 years ago. So tomorrow, because today is the 7th for me, those of you in Australia, today, 3 years ago, I was deplatformed from Google. Okay, let's continue. So my YouTube channel is only slightly older than that because I had actually created it. But you'll see that was when my podcast started appearing on that channel, and it doesn't go back any further than that. Okay, here we go.
Particular case of the sun sublogos. Third density is the density of calling. 81.26 questioner. RA then has not moved at any time into one of the other major galaxies. Is this correct? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. 81.27 questioner. Does RA have knowledge of, say, any other major galaxy or the consciousness or anything in that galaxy? Ra. I am Ra. We assume you are speaking of the possibility of knowledge of other major galaxies. There are wanderers from other major galaxies drawn to the specific needs of a single call. There are those among our social memory complex which have become wanderers in other major galaxies. Thus there has been knowledge of other major galaxies. For to one whose personality or mind/body/spirit complex has been crystallized, the universe is one place and there is no bar upon travel. However, our interpretation of your query was a query concerning the social memory complex traveling to another major galaxy. We have not done this, nor do we contemplate it, for we can reach in love with our hearts. 81.28 questioner. Thank you. In this line of questioning I am trying to establish a basis for understanding the foundation for not only the experience that we have now but how the experience was formed and how it is related to all the rest of the experience through the portion of the octave as we understand it.
Okay, before he gets further into that, once you leave the physical plane, down here it's all physical. This place is all physical. Once you start transitioning in service to others, and in service to self to some extent, as you move up, the physical body starts to wane. Not in this lifetime, but when you move to 4D, the physical body that you have, that structure is a little bit less dense than the one you have currently right here in this human form. As you move into 5D, you start losing your legs. They become transparent and you start floating around in your some of your body in the torso becomes a little transparent. Over time, everything becomes transparent and you just become light. You just become energy. So Raw now being energy, it's easier for them through thought form to travel to another place than it is for them to take the energy and move and manipulate it through space, because time becomes only the distance that it takes for the physical to move from one place to the other. But they can instantaneously, and you can too, through astral projection, you can instantaneously move to the other side of the world and see remote view. Okay, so your physical body is still here and your soul is still attached to that body through that silver cord that keeps you from getting lost. That'll pull you back in if you stay out too long or you get too far away. It'll go yank and you'll come flying back in. So once you detach from the physical plane and you reside in your spirit body in the higher planes, you still have to physically move that from one place to another, but you get used to quickly manifesting yourself in different places and going different places. It's rare that the entire hive mind complex totality will move from one place to another because it takes time. You don't have to do that. So why do it? Do you see? So once you become energy, you just go and visit places and come back. Some people, and this is what Ra was talking about, some of the souls that were a part of the collective broke off and went to other places and came back, but they didn't physically leave. That's how they still know about it. They went there to go to another galaxy and then experience things there, and that way the information came instantaneously to the hive mind complex. Ra was just stating that. Thus, how we know about life in other universes or other galaxies in the universe. Okay, so let's continue. I'm going to get up and go. My mother is falling asleep in the living room, and I need to wake her up, or she'll wake up in the middle of the night and try to roam around. So I need to go wake her up. So I'm going to let Ra play. I'll be right back in about 10 or 15 seconds, maybe 30.
I am assuming, then, that all of these galaxies, millions, infinite number of galaxies which we can just begin to become aware of with our telescopes, they are all of the same octave. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 81.29 Questioner, I was wondering if, in that some of the wanderers from RA going to the other major galaxies, that is, leaving this system of 200 plus billion stars of lenticular shape and going to another cluster of billions of stars and finding their way to some planetary situation there, would any of these wanderers encounter the dual polarity that we have here, both the service to self and the service to others polarity? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 81.30 Questioner, now, you stated earlier that toward the center of this galaxy, I believe, to use a poor term, you could call the older portion you would find no service to self-polarization, but, that this was what you might call, a later experience. Am I correct in assuming that this is true of the other galaxies with which wanderers from RA have experience?
Shelley said, my daughter asked, when do we fly again? At 3 years, or is that the question? At 3 years, when do we fly again? Meaning when? Well, depends on what you mean. Your soul can fly at any time and does. When your physical body is asleep, your immortal soul doesn't need sleep. So you don't just lay in your body and sit there bored all night long. You leave and go to other places. Your consciousness goes to other places and does other things. You sometimes go into other avatars that you occupy. You sometimes go to the Akashic records and learn and talk to people. You sometimes do other things, travel around and see the sights on this earth, heal the planet, go and talk to your ancestors. So it depends on what you mean. If you're talking about physically, that won't happen until you get outside of the human body, until you move into that realm to where you are either that or you occupy a physical body that can fly. So I'm not sure if that's answering your question, right? At 3 years old. Oh, at 3 years old, that the question was being asked. Okay. So when do we fly again? So, yeah. So for a 3-year-old, if she's asking that question, she's far more awake than you think she is. When do we fly again? It's cute. Tell her she can fly anytime that she wants to, but she just has to do it like an angel. I don't know if you're a Christian or not, but out of body is when we can fly again. So if she's stating that, she might be actually pondering, when do we get to be like that again? And that is when your time is ready, you will know when that is. That would be the answer that I would give her, and then find out more specifics of the dynamic of what she's asking there, because she may have memory of flying. And if she does, she's been having or has memory of being out of body and being able to maneuver as a light being. Okay. And so she believes that she's in jail. Is that what you're saying? Right? She's in jail. So you believe that she believes that, yeah, well, in some respects we are. So if she's saying that, then that means that she's a little more unveiled, and she realizes that she's stuck here in a place where she can't do the things that she's used to doing. So she has memory of being out of body and memory of being a light being. So if that's the case, she's correct that she's down here. Try to encourage her, because if you don't, this place will capture her, because it's designed to do that. And eventually she'll forget that she knew that, because she'll get locked into this place. As soon as you get her into school, they'll solidify her into the matrix. As soon as she starts watching television, that'll solidify her. Usually children, if they're slightly unveiled, by the time they're 7 or 8 years old, they're veiled. We do the same thing. You could be unveiled. I have to be careful. I'm unveiled, and if I don't pay attention, this place will capture me, because it's designed to do that. You're supposed to learn to resist the capture and be like Neo and wake up from the Matrix and see you don't see the lines like he saw with the letters, but you do see the spirals and you do see the geometric shapes in your third eye. You do see all that. You start seeing that, specifically the spirals, the Fibonacci sequence, and the golden mean ratio. You start seeing that in everything, and the other building blocks too. But she's actually accurate in that concept of, when do I get to fly again? Because I'm in jail. Because we're in jail, because we are. This is that jail for souls, and you're mind wiped, and you're veiled. So you have that shade of darkness, that cloud of darkness over you, and you don't get to see what's going on. So the correct answer would be to her, when you become unveiled, when you ascend, to remember how to fly, you'll be able to fly. So that's a great question that she said that, right? She's 35 and truly in jail, right? So she had at least 30 suicide attempts. Oh, okay. So she's older now, and she's had problems. So she's having problems then. If she's tried to kill herself, she's having problems because she knows that she's in jail and she wants out, because she still probably has that memory. And some people don't, but they just know that they're stuck. So she might be someone who knows that she's been here for a very long time, and she's trying to look for a way out. And it's just a reset. If she succeeds in killing herself, she's just going to go up there, heal, and then design another life and come back in and be reborn and have to start it all over. So you should talk to her then, if that's the case, and she's not a young girl and she's 30 or 35 and she's done that and she's tried to kill herself, then you need to talk to her and say that by 2030, baby, tell her by 2030, things are going to change here. If she can hold on for 5 more years, she can go home. That's the truth of what we're doing here. By 2050, we're trying to make this place complete. So, but if you tell her 2050, that's a long time away. That's 30 years from now. But if you tell her that if she can hold on until 2030, then that gives you about 5 years to calm her down from the committing suicide thing. But let her know that she can go home whenever she wants to. She just can't do it that way. If she wants to go home, and she wants to be able to fly, and she wants to get out of here, she needs to fix herself, because by fixing herself, it's going to help everybody else be fixed here. And then the changes will happen faster, and she'll be able to reach the level of wanting to be able to go home and being able to go home. Killing herself is just going to reset her, and she's just going to come back in and have to start all over. And she doesn't realize that. But like the people on 9/11, some of them found it easier to jump off the building than to burn. They jumped to their death. Hundreds and hundreds of people jumped out the windows and would rather die than to be trapped in the building and burned to death, or possibly burned to death. The same thing is happening with people that are here on the earth now and that have been stuck here for a long time. They know they've been stuck here for a long time, and they're killing themselves because they think that's the way out. And they don't realize that because they're not done, they don't get to leave. And so they just get reborn. So you gotta work with her and talk to her about that, and let her know that we're all stuck here, but we're fixing it, and we're going to get out of here in a very short time. This will be the last lifetime she has to stay here. That much you should tell her. This will be the last time she will have to stay here, because that's what we're doing here in this time. That is the truth of what we're doing here. We're trying to make it be the last time, so that all these people that have been stuck here for at least 70,000 years, some of them longer than that, won't have to be stuck anymore, and they can move on. So we're fixing that. And so tell her, if you can reach her with this knowledge, tell her that this literally is the last time she has to do this, and she can go from here, and she'll be happy. But if she kills herself, she's going to have to start over in a new lifetime. And then that one will still be the last time. So if she kills herself today, she'll be back in a couple of months in a new body, being born again and being mind wiped and not remember that she's stuck, and still have the same issues that she's going to have. She just won't remember it. But sometimes they feel that that's better to be in the Matrix than to know about the Matrix. That was what that one guy did in the Matrix movie, where he said, I'll give you Neo and all the guys. You just got to put me back in the Matrix and erase my memory, because I don't want to know any of it. So some people are wanting to do that, and they're willing to commit suicide. And if she's trying to do that, then Obviously, it's not working when the people whose their job is to try and help her mentally, they're not doing their job because they don't understand what's happening here either. But yeah, I hope that you can reach her, right? But there is hope. You need to tell her that we are fixing this place. We're aware of it. We know she's stuck. We know that, and we're here for her. She needs to know that, right? Maybe play this for her and let her hear my voice and look at me when I'm saying it and see if she resonates with that. We're aware that you're stuck. We came here to help, and we're fixing this place so you don't have to be stuck anymore. And our hope is, and what we are shooting for, and it looks like we're putting it on track, that by 2050, everybody can go home from here. If they want to leave and never come back, they don't have to come back. Okay. They can leave and move on to the next place. And if they don't want to do it on Earth, they don't have to, because there's already people in the fourth dimension living here on Earth, and they call it Terra. They call it the same as we call it now. Everyone here is just going to shift into there and not remember it. So if she holds on for the next 5 years, she's going to see a large shift in the reality here, enough to where what she sees here as hopeless is going to be over, and she's going to start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So she really only needs to hold on for 5 more years, and then she will feel better about where we're going, and then she'll know that what I'm saying is true, that in this lifetime she's going to get to go home, or at least move up to the next level to where things are far better than they are being stuck here. I don't know if that's going to help her at all. See what she thinks about that, if she'll listen to that. If she's not open to that, then it's going to be hard to keep her from doing what she's doing. I would love to talk to her and see if I could reach her by answering her questions. See if she's open to that. See if she's open to hearing what I have to say about that. The worst thing she could do is tell me I'm full of shit and she doesn't believe me, and then nothing ventured, nothing gained. Yeah, stay strong, right? Look, stay strong. Change is coming. Good things are coming our way, right? And if she won't resonate with a man, maybe she'll resonate with Brooke, and Brooke can talk to her. But yeah, I mean, I would love to, if she would listen. I would talk to her and answer any of the questions to see if I can get through to her, to let her know that in a very short time things are going to change drastically, and if she just holds on a little bit. Yeah, please try to figure that out. Let me know how that turns out for you, if you get through to her, if she listens, or if there's any way that we can talk to her, and I'll work with her if I can, or maybe somebody that she might resonate with, because she may not trust me. Being a woman, she may look at me and go, "You're a dude. It's your fault." You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so we'll figure that out. Okay. Right? Yeah. Speaking the truth, that's for sure. Yeah. So let's continue. Okay. Let's continue with Raw. But yeah, please, Shelly, let me know if there's anything that I can do to try and help her to understand that. Say those words to her, and see if she just says no. If she is in jail, then she's in a darker place to where it's hard to get through to those people, because everyone in there is dark, and so the mentality is different. She does now hear me. Yeah. Okay. So if she does listen, then tell her those things. By 2030, she's going to see a big difference. If she can just hold on for another few more years, she's going to see a lot of changes that are going to be happening exponentially to this earth. And by 2050, which is, I know it's another 25 years from now. So she's going to be much older, but it's going to be completely, this way of life is no longer going to exist the way it does. This maritime law that you have currently running this global society is going to be no longer in existence. It's going to be completely different here on this earth. All right, let's continue here.
That at the center of these galaxies only the service to others polarity existed, and the experiment started farther out toward the rim of the galaxy. Ra, I am Ra. Various logoi and sublogoi had various methods of arriving at the discovery of the efficiency of free will and intensifying the experience of the creator by the creator. However, in each case this has been a pattern. 81.31 Questioner, you mean then that the pattern is that the service to self-polarization appeared farther out from the center of the galactic spiral? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. 81.32 Questioner. From this I will assume that at the beginning of the octave we had the core, with many galactic spirals forming, and I know this is incorrect in the sense of timelessness, but as the spiral formed then I am assuming that in this particular octave the experiment then must have started somewhat, roughly, simultaneously in many of the budding or building galactic systems by the experiment of the veiling in extending the free will. Am I in any way correct with this assumption? Ra, I am Ra. You are precisely correct. This instrument is unusually fragile at this space/time and has used much of the transferred energy. We would invite one more full query for this working. 81.33 Questioner. Actually, I don't have much more on this except to make the assumption that there must have been some type of communication throughout the octave so that, when the first experiment became effective, the knowledge of this then spread rapidly through the octave and was picked up by other budding galactic spirals, you might say. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. To be aware of the nature of this communication is to be aware of the nature of the logos. Much of what you call creation has never separated from the one logos of this octave and resides within the one infinite creator. Communication in such an environment is the...
Right, hold on. Yeah, Penny said, those of us who came here to do work to help fix this place, are not really allowed to leave because we made our life plans, and this is how we, it is. We signed a contract. Wanderers come down and they sign a contract for a certain number of years. Usually it's like 77,000 years. It's 50 to 70,000 years, or you fix the place. So people come down and they sign a contract. I will go down there and I will spend minimum this amount of time unless we fix the place. If we fix the place, you get out when you fix the place. If not, you have to go to the end of the contract. So that's part of the sacrifice that we do when we come down here, is that we sign on to be here for like 75,000 years. No matter what, I'll be there for 75,000 years, or if we fix the place, whichever comes first. And then you can re-sign, you can re-up and sign another contract to come down for another stint. So you have to be dedicated to be in service to other people before you even come down here. That's why it's done that way, because it's serious. You don't get to come down here and then go, screw it, I made a mistake, I'm out. You're stuck. So you have to understand the weight of that before you come down here. And that's what wanderers do. Sometimes you get down here and you realize that you're tired because you've been here for a long time, and that's kind of difficult. It's kind of hard. Okay, let's continue here.
Communication of cells of the body. That which is learned by one is known to all. The sublogoi, then, have been in the position of refining the discoveries of what might be called the earlier sublogoi. May we ask if we may answer any brief queries at this working? 81.34 Questioner. Only if there is anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact. Ra, I am Ra. It is difficult to determine the energy levels of the instrument and support group. Of this we are aware. It is, however, recommended that every attempt be made to enter each working with the most desirable configurations of energy possible. All is well, my friends. You are conscientious and the alignments are well. I am Ra. I leave you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the infinite creator. Adonai.
Okay, let me pull up the next session here, and we'll prime that up for
March
us.
27th.
Hold on. Let me present that one, share that on the screen here, and put myself up into full screen again. I'm going to go ahead and let this play for a second. I got to run to the restroom real fast. I've been drinking a lot of coffee and water. So I'm going to go do that, and I'll come right back, but I'll let Rob play in the meantime, and then I'll come back over. All right, so I'll be right back, guys. So if people show up and go, where's the host? He had to run to the restroom real quick, and he'll be right back.
March 27th, 1982. 82.0 Ra, I am Ra. I greet you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. 82.1 Questioner. Could you first please give me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated. 82.2 Questioner. Is there anything at all that we could do that we are not doing to besides eliminating the contact to increase the physical energy of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. There is the possibility/probability that the whirling of the water with spine erect would alter, somewhat, the distortion towards what you call pain which this entity experiences in the dorsal region on a continuous level. This in turn could aid in the distortion towards increase of physical energy to some extent. 82.3 Questioner, Jim has a personal question which is not to be published. He asks, it seems that my balancing work has shifted from more peripheral concerns such as patience/impatience, to learning to open myself in unconditional love, to accepting myself as whole and perfect, and then to accepting myself as the creator. If this is a normal progression of focus for balancing, wouldn't it be more efficient once this is discovered for a person to work on the acceptance of self as creator rather than work peripherally on the secondary and tertiary results of not accepting the self? Ra, I am Ra. The term efficiency has misleading connotations. In the context of doing work in the disciplines of the personality, in order to be of more full efficiency in the central acceptance of the self, it is first quite necessary to know the distortions of the self which the entity is accepting.
All right. Hopefully you guys can hear that okay. Shelley said, what book of the Law of One is this? I'm not exactly sure because there's 6 books to the Law of One. We're on session 80. What was this, 82, 83? I'll have to listen now to see what they're saying. So there's 106 sessions. This is probably the 6th book. Could be the 5th. I don't know for sure. I'll be honest with you because I haven't read them as books since the first time I read them back in 2017. But it's way up there. So the information that you're hearing, all the sessions are in order. So you would have to flip through the books. This is probably book 5 or 6. I would wager 6 because we're only 26 sessions. About 26 sessions away or 23 sessions away from the end of all of the books. So chances are this is the last book that we're in. Okay. Let's see. So hence the reason, Joanne said, hence the reason why I have been going to the core of the earth in my meditations to do healing from the core and to the universe, right? Let me put that up on the screen. Before I go on a meditation for self for at least 8 months. Yeah, there's a lot of us that do that. Some people that I worked with, I explained to them, have you ever had one of those dreams where I only thought there was 4 books. No, there's 6 total. From what I understand, unless they consolidated them originally. Now you have to remember that I've been in more than this reality, and the reality has shifted. So it is possible that now there's only 4 books. There were 6 books when I first started this, and it's 106 sessions. So if that is now only in 4 books, that's because that changed with the timeline when the timeline changed. Because originally there were 6 books. So if there's only 4 books, this is in the 4th book, right? Right? Because things have changed. When I did the Law of One the first time, I started it in 2017. But currently in this reality, when you go back in my archives on Facebook, on my Orion Rising page, it says that I started it in October of 2018. I started it in October of 2017. Okay. That was what I did the first time, but timelines have shifted since then, and things have become compressed in some areas and non-compressed or decompressed in other areas when the timeline shifts. So there are minor details that I remember that have changed, where I have both memories, but then there are large events that have changed, and they call it a Mandela effect because some people remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in South Africa. And some people remember Nelson Mandela not dying in prison in South Africa, and he became the president of South Africa. In this current reality, he did not die in the prison in South Africa, and he became the president of South Africa. But there is a time where he died there, and people have that memory, and they say that it's just a farce. You just remember it wrong because the person who did in fact die there was Stephen Biko, who was in fact in charge of the anti-apartheid movement, and Nelson Mandela was his right-hand man. Nelson Mandela took over the mantle when Stephen Biko got Epsteined, when he supposedly hung himself in his prison cell. Then Nelson Mandela stayed in prison and then eventually got out of prison and became the president of South Africa. But there is a reality where there was no Stephen Biko in it, and Nelson Mandela died in prison, and things were very different. That was changed. That was part of some of the things that were changed during an upgrade that has happened. So there's a lot of events that change. Spelling of words here on this planet are not the way they were before. And some of us perceive that. And I've talked to other people that perceive the exact same spelling adjustments that I did. And there's a collective of us that, like your CK that we use here, like if you write the word, whatever, back, B-A-C-K. Here on this planet, not too long ago, that would have been B-A-K-K. There was no C. But if you look back in history, we get the letter C from the Futhark, the Viking language, and we put because the C was just a C, and they put the line behind the C to make it the K sound, the hard C, as opposed to the soft C. Okay, so at some point that changed in the English language, but the CK, the way that was added. Originally the C, once they put the line behind it, became a hard C. So if you were using the word back with a hard K, why would you use a soft C and a hard C to make the word back? Because the soft C is a S sound, like the word Celtic as opposed to the word Celtic, because the word is a Greek word and it's a C and it's Celtic, but the Scottish people pronounce it Celtic. Drives me crazy. It's a dialect problem. So why would you use B-A-C-K when the C is a S sound and the K, but you make the C silent? So in the Germanic languages, you wouldn't do that. You would double up the lettering and you would have two Ks there to make it a K sound. Do you understand that? So that changed at some point, but most of you don't remember that. And there's a few of us that remember that, where we had that memory switch in our minds. I was talking to Stephanie, who's not in here. Her and I were on, her and I do Duolingo together, and she's in the Law of One chat. And her and I were talking one night, and I started typing, and I typed it with two Ks. and now, mind you, I was doing a foreign language at the time, a Viking language on Duolingo at the time. She was doing German, and I'm also learning German, but I wasn't doing German at the time. I think I was doing Norwegian that day. And I said, that's odd, because that I know that word should have been spelled with a C, but I saw it as a K. And she said, I saw it as natural when you did that. I also wasn't that just literally like yesterday, 2 Ks? And I was like, okay, so you're getting that, right? And she said, yeah. And I said, okay, so it's not just me. So I questioned some other people that I know are awake enough, and they were like, when did they start using a C behind the K in all the words that have the two letters that used to be KK, like yesterday? So you guys don't remember that unless you're part of the collective mind that remembers all of the Mandela effects. But even here on this earth, just 6 months ago, you didn't use a C with the K. You used KK, not CK, on all of the words that end in CK. And then it changed in an instant. And some of us have the memory of spelling all the words with 2 Ks. Yeah, some of that stuff. Well, there was the March and May of 2022. Yeah, where there was big changes that occurred at that time. A lot of people remember May because there was a shift where your heart was being told to you is in the center of your body, and some people still have that memory. And that one is a dual memory that's still there, which is a little more odd. Because if you Google it, you'll find the heart right in the center of the body, and you'll also find it over to the left behind the lung. And some people say it's definitely behind my left lung, not in the center of my body. And other people are like, no, it's in the center of my body. Usually the two memories aren't as dedicated when a memory shift changes. Also involved in that same change, where your kidneys are, the people who have the heart on the left side of the body, right behind the lung, halfway behind the left lung, had the kidneys just at the waistline, right above your butt crack, in your body, on the either side. The people who remember their heart being in the dead center, their kidneys, they have memory of their kidneys being up much higher, just under the lungs at the base of the rib cage in the back. So you have two definitive groups of people that have two different memories of where those organs are in the body, where normally when there's a shift in the timeline, one memory, it becomes the prominent memory, and the shift changes and everybody instantaneously only remembers the new memory. But some people, because they're wanderers and they're a little bit more awake, they remember both, but now the new memory is the reality and the old memory is now just a memory for them. And that's what they call the Mandela effect. Let's continue here, right? Though there's been many changes, Shelley. Shelley said, I thought earlier in 2008, 2009, there have been many changes that have been occurring since we're rewriting history here. Many changes. Back in the 80s, for instance, if you look in history right now, the LA Lakers basketball team here in the United States, Los Angeles Lakers, won 3 championships in a row. At that time in the early 80s, because I was only like 17 or 18 at the time when they did that, I watched them lose the 7th game of the 3rd series and not win in three-peat. Then the next day when I went to work, it had shifted and everybody was talking about them winning 3 championships in a row. And I said, they lost the game last night. I watched it on television. And everyone said, what are you talking about? They won. And they showed me the newspaper and they had won. So there was a shift then that I was aware of. So there's many shifts that are happening, and they're happening more exponentially as we're righting the planet, literally moving it from being off kilter back up to 0 point. We're changing the ley lines of the earth, the energy grid of the earth back to where it should be. That's helping that to happen. That's also shifting the consciousness of the human race. The Schumann resonance of the human race is shifting back more towards the light. In doing so, we're pushing the planet back upright. The moon is moving away from the planet at the exact rate of speed that we're tilting the planet upright, because we will no longer need the moon to run our ecosystem once the earth is rewrited to the 0 point in its gravitational pull around the sun. You won't have the seasons that we have now. The seasons will be globally. You'll have frost and snow at the polar regions, and as you get closer into the equator, it'll go more to the band that's there now of tropics. And so if you want to go to the snow, you'll have to go to the north. You won't go up in elevation. You'll have to go up to the north or down to the south to get to snow, not at higher elevations. Some places that are high enough, you'll do that just because it'll be colder up there. But you won't have the seasonal changes that you now have everywhere on the planet. You'll have we're still going to be in the same orbit where we move up and down above the sun. The sun is fixed in our orbit. As we go around the sun, we go like this around the sun. So right now we're starting to move back down. So the northern hemisphere is starting to get more light, and the southern hemisphere is starting to get less light because our orbit is starting to go below. We're at that equator point where we're starting to go below the sun in our rotation. So all the light in the north is staying longer because we're below the sun, and the sun is shining on the northern part of the hemisphere now. So that will stay the same, but the seasons won't be the same. Anyway, let's continue here with Ross. So there's a lot of changes that occur all the time, and you will perceive, if you're a wanderer, you'll perceive them personally, and then you'll also perceive the larger ones. Like, for instance, I love to use the Tinkerbell thing, because many wanderers remember this. If you've been alive for more than 35 years, you will remember this. Some of you, even if you're 35, you might. When you were a kid, Tinkerbell used to, when you watched the Disney, she would fly over the Disney castle, and she would fly right up to the screen, and she would come right up to the screen, and she would reach back and go boom, like she's hitting you in the nose, and it would sparkle with fairy dust all over your face. And then she would fly off and fly over the castle and leave the trail over the castle as she was flying as an archway. And then it would say Walt Disney and Disney Presents, and then the show would start. Well, Disney, the corporation, says that never happened, and you can't find it anywhere. People are like, I have old tapes, it'll be there. No, the timeline changed. So it's no longer there. The only place it's in memory is the Akashic records and your memory if you were alive at the time. But if you were only awake enough to perceive it, and remember it. So you have to be either awake enough or you have to be a wanderer to have perceived it. You can still be veiled as a wanderer, but you would perceive it because you're part of the people that are helping change the timeline. So you are actually privy to these timeline changes and you remember both memories, but you can't prove it because you can have one of the videos that it used to be on in your grandma's house. She could have it in her attic, and you go up there and you plug it in. Because the timeline shifted at some point, that no longer exists in this timeline. So it's gone, but it's in your head and it didn't get erased. Those people who are here and not ready to graduate, or they're completely veiled, they don't have memory of that. When a timeline changed, their memory changed instantly, and they deny that it ever was a thing. They can't have it be a thing. Okay, let's continue here, because it's just not. There's nothing in their memory. They don't have any memory of it changing. When they leave their physical body, when the physical body dies and they go up to the Akashic record, they will have the memory of it then and know that there was a memory shift. So they'll know about it then, but they won't remember it while they're down here because they can't. They just can't remember it. All right, let's continue.
Thought and action needs must then be scrutinized for the precise foundation of the distortions of any reactions. This process shall lead to the more central task of acceptance. However, the archet rave must be in place before the structure is builded. 82.4 Questioner, thank you. I would like to consider the condition at a time or position, you might say, if time is a bad word, just prior to the beginning of this octave of experience. I am assuming that, just prior to the beginning of this octave, intelligent infinity had created and already experienced one or more previous octaves. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra.
It wouldn't matter, Penny, if you checked all of your Disney tapes. When the timeline changes, that instantaneously is no longer there because it never existed in this timeline. It's not going to be on there because you own one, because when the time shift changed, that reality is no longer in existence. So the reality changes to the new reality. The only place that it can exist is in someone that is immortal. The only place that memory can exist is in something that is immortal or someone. So it's in the Akashic records only and in your memory. It's the only place. If you don't remember it in your memory, then you will only remember it when you become your higher self and you remember from that perspective, or when you access your own Akashic record and you look at it, because that is an official record. So all changes are still listed in those records. You'll be able to see that it was there and that it wasn't there and why it changed and when it shifted. But down here in this reality, it's no longer in existence because it did not happen now. Reality here changed. So that time is now different, and that never happened. Whoever created that never created it. Okay? So it instantaneously changes everywhere on the earth all at once and in everyone's memory. So that's why those of you who are wanderers, if you're awake enough or you're a wanderer, you'll have both memories because you're awake enough to be accessing your memory as a higher self, not veiled memory. So you'll, even if you're still veiled and you don't understand it, you'll be like, I have both memories. Chick-fil-A, for instance, right? And one time it was spelled C-H-I-C, filet. And now it's spelled C-H-I-C-K, filet. Okay? And they claim it was never a C without the K. It was a C without the K. And then they added the K onto it when it offended people. They claim now, and everybody else says that never happened, except for the people who have that memory. That was something that shifted in the time. It's not like people go and try to change that specific thing. It's a byproduct. It is a collateral damage to changing the timelines. We're upgrading the timelines and shifting it back to the way it was supposed to be from when the fall happened by the evil people who got here and changed things. They changed things. The way it works, and this is the part that is going to get a little macabre and weird to some people out. When they get here, the Orion Crusaders, when they invade a planet, they come down in physical form in a very small contingent in the third dimension. They also come in the same way in the fourth dimension, and then they come in the fifth dimension. In the fifth dimension, they come as spirit beings. And what they do is, when they get permission to be down here, when you come down here, and this is why, if Dennis was still here, he's talking about the origin of the typo negative DNA. And I was talking about that representation of people who come down here. When you come down here, you have to have a representation of yourself here. When you're here, you have access to, you have to have a past. So you have access to, if you come in legally and you're not an invading force, you will have a past. If you come here as an invading force, you don't have a past. You're just here in that moment, and your past is off of world, and that knowledge of you being off world is what realigns the people. So that's why evil people won't come here the way we do. So we come here legally and we get born here, in which case that gives us access to the past and the present and the future on this world for a certain time. So some wanderers were evil and came down here to gain access to the past and the future and the present. Okay. And by gaining that access, whether they were conscious of it or not, they sacrificed themselves. Then their masters had access and they rewrote history, changed it. We came down here and we're rewriting it and fixing it. And that's changing the timeline. So eventually, all of this scenario that's happening right here is going to disappear and no one's going to remember it. And they're going to claim we were never stuck. We never had this going on. There was never tyranny. COVID never happened. All of this maritime law that we have here never happened. And the global events that have been happening for the last 12,000 years in history will no longer exist. And we will be in a different utopian society that will be completely different to this. And most of the people in that society will claim that those of us who have the memories of the other society are, whatever they call it in that reality, whether it's still called the Mandela effect or not, they're going to say that's just a Mandela effect and you guys are just remembering things wrong. And then we will smile and we will say, you're absolutely right. We're probably remembering it wrong. And we will meet one another and we will smile because we did our job properly and it's over. And then we can go home at any time when we want to go home, and we'll probably live out the lives that we have peacefully and then die of old age or whatever happens to us, heart attack, shot, ran over. Those violent things wouldn't be as obvious. But then we would have things that we would just die and then we move on. Our contract's over. Because you're not going to have a culling where you're going to have a bunch of people just drop dead. That would create too much chaos within the geological society or the ecosystem that would be that place. So everybody has to die naturally, so they never even knew we were here. That's what's going to happen. Okay? So all of this will cease to exist and they'll forget this that ever happened. And once they die and go up there, then they'll remember it. And then they'll know what they were a part of. Okay? So you'll never be able to see it. You'll never be able to find it until you access the Akashic Records to find out exactly how much we've already changed here. Unless you've been here as long as I have, then you'll have memory of all the things that you've changed. All right, let's continue here.
You assume correctly. However, the phrase would more informatively read, infinite intelligence had experienced previous octaves. 82.5 Questioner, does RA have any knowledge of the number of previous octaves, and if so, how many? Ra, I am Ra. As far as we are aware, we are in an infinite creation. There is no counting. 82.6 Questioner, that's what I thought you might say. Am I correct in assuming that at the beginning of this octave, out of what I would call a void of space, the seeds of an infinite number of galactic systems such as the Milky Way galaxy appeared and grew in spiral fashion simultaneously? Ra, I am Ra.
To some extent.
There are duple areas of potential confusion.
Yeah.
Firstly, let us say that the basic concept is reasonably well stated. Now we address the confusion. The nature of true simultaneity is such that, indeed, all is simultaneous. However, in your modes of perception you would perhaps more properly view the seeding of the creation as that of growth from the center or core outward.
Okay,
The second confusion
so
lies
hold on,
in
let
the
me
term.
pause this. So Penny's postulated. So the World Trade Center may not have happened in the future. In the future, the World Trade Center will not have happened. Correct. Neither will the Second World War. Neither will the First World War. Neither will the Third World War. None of the things that are happening that you have memory of today, not all of them, but some of them have the potential of disappearing when we change the timeline. I can't predict exactly what is going to be still in the memory of the people here. So not even I know the answer to that. right? I was actually out of body one time. This was cool. I've told this story off camera. I was out of body. I was asleep. So I was out of my body. I was in the earth, and I was moving the energy lines of the earth as we were making changes. And I was shifting the energy lines. And I looked over. I'm getting the sense that it was this way, but it was this way. No, it was this way. I looked over as I was doing this. I was energy, wasn't in this physical body, and I was moving the energy lines, and I could see the energy lines in the earth. And I looked over to my left, and there was this big wave of energy that was coming around the earth, coming towards me. And I looked at it and went, "Now that's odd. That shouldn't be happening. What exactly is that?" And as it went over me, actually, I think it was from my left to my right. Doesn't matter which direction. As it went over me, I had several memories in my mind. At the same time, there was a flux, and there was another memory that popped in that was different from the one that was there, and they were both doing this. In my mind, they were going, and then it went by. And I went, wow. This is the first time I've been out of body that I remember when a time shift changed in the earth, and I perceived it. Literally, the memories in my mind started shimmering, and then there was a new memory that appeared and started shimmering with it, and they both were solidified as it went past me, and I had both memories. When I woke up in my physical body, I started asking people about that memory and found out that there was a shift. That was the first time I perceived one where I was conscious at the time of the shift while I was out of body, astral projecting. I've done it when I was in body before, and I've done it while I was sleeping, but not while I was out of body. So it was a strange experience. So in the future, it is just as likely, Penny, that the World Trade Center would not have happened as it is that it will happen. But I don't know the answer 100% that it'll disappear, that it didn't happen. But it is just as likely because there's so much that is going to be changed when we rewrite history, that a lot of the strife that we've had, that the evil people have been putting on us, COVID and the like, may never have happened. And if you still have memory of it, people are going to go, "I don't know what you're talking about." And it just never happened. You're delusional. It just never happened. Okay. Shelley said that is why history class would just piss me off, right? With the changes when you get in there. I mean, it is kind of weird that way. And if you try to argue with people, they'll tell you have no idea what you're talking about, right? So Joanne said that's about right, preventing the reoccurrence of negative happenings, and with thought we create the future. Yeah. So I don't know exactly what will change, but I do know that this way of life will not exist, because it only exists because when they got here, they changed things. That was the fall of man that you guys know everything about. When they got here, they rewrote history to solidify themselves being here and being in control here. So we're here changing history. So we're changing things, not just in the past. This is the temporal war. We're changing things in the past, the present, and the future. So I'm occupying other bodies in the future, and I'm doing the same thing that I'm doing here, solidifying the changes that I'm making here and in several lives. And those of you who talk to me off camera that I've talked to about this, like Brooke, for instance, she knows of times in the past and what I've done in the past and what she's done in the past, and how that congruency of several lifetimes of me doing something there and following up in another life and following up in another life to further that same work, and then it's me doing it all instantaneously at the same time. But from this perspective, it's done in the past, and I'm not in that body anymore. But in truth, if I leave my focus from this body, I'm in that body. I can go into that body of any one of those and see things as now and remember them. But you have to be completely unveiled to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's just a memory that you have. When you're partially unveiled, you remember being that person in the past. When you're completely unveiled, you can plug into that person now and be that person. Okay. So that becomes very strange for some people to understand that quickening, right? That's there. Yes, when I focus on it, Shelley, when I focus on it, that's a question that comes up all the time for those of us who are unveiled. So if you have like all of your lives, do you remember all of them? And I tell people, you don't want to remember them all at once, because people will think you have schizophrenia and they'll think you have multiple personality disorder. And if you're unaware and you're having all of those memories, your ego will grab a hold of those, and you will think that they're distinct personalities within you, and they're actually you bleeding over into all of your personalities. So imagine if you were, say, let's just say you were three people in three different lives. Okay. Imagine all the memories that you currently have of your personality and everything you've done and everything you've learned. Now imagine having three other people or two other people's memories in your mind right now. And everything you did is that personality. And everything you learned is that personality running in your current memory. How would you keep them separated? Becomes confusing, right? I do that sometimes when I'm talking to a certain, like when Brooke and I talk, because we shared lifetimes, every now and then I will shift into that person and answer her as that person. And she has done that with me, where she has shifted into that person and said something to me and said, wait, hold on. I was just speaking as this person, and I've done that to her. And so that happens when you're in that place. You kind of shift a little bit. So you have to keep your separation of each individual. But when I look, I can see into the future, and I know who I'm going to be. Do you understand that? You do too. You just don't have memory of it if you're veiled. Also, the same thing in the past. So I'm aware of it when I look. When someone say, did you ever live, at a certain time? Like I can tell you that I lived in the Old West here. I was a Native American and died about 70 miles from where I'm currently at, about 280 years ago. And that's where I lived. I was on the Old West in I guess it was Texas, and I died there robbing a bank. And that was in the Old West, so that would have been in the 1800s. I can tell you that I was in Scotland, in the Highlands of Scotland, and I died in the year 1232 in a clan war because I was there. And I looked my name up, and there I was. I did that about 35 years ago when I was with my first wife, and I looked the person up and said, there I am. That was me. I died there in that battle. And looked it up and found out I died exactly the way I said I died. So, but if I have those memories floating around at all times, it gets confusing. And that's when people start having those tears. They think they're tears, and they start talking to themselves and answering themselves, because they don't realize that is them. The whole thing is them. So yeah. So it sounds crazy, right? Yeah, right. I'm coping with me, myself, and Moonshell, me, myself, and Irene, like the movie, right? So you don't want to have those memories in the forefront of your memory. You want them in the background. So you have to learn to separate them and remember that, because the truth is, you're not all of those either. The truth is, you're the experiencer who's experiencing all of those. You're that higher self that is residing halfway through the sixth density. That's where the self that we're trying to teach you to get to when you meditate. When you're trying to achieve that meditative state, that's you. We're trying to show you as your higher self. That is where the ego can't reach you and the thinking mind can't reach you, and they're quiet, and you're still there as the experiencer. That's where we're trying to pull you to, instead of having you focus on your past lives or your future lives, because that's confusing until you reside there. Once you start to reside there in that place and learn how to achieve it like I do, like I'm doing currently when I'm speaking to you, that's why it's so easy for me to channel from there, because I'm there. That's me, right? And I call myself Kelto there. So when I tell people that I'm channeling, if they ask me, who are you channeling? I tell them Kelto. And they're like, oh, so you channel some foreign, some entity. No, I channel myself. I would probably make a lot of money if I didn't say that. And I just said, I am channeling Kelto, who is a sixth dimensional being. I would probably be rich on this planet, and people would line up to hear me speak, but it's me. Okay. it's me in that place. So I tell people that because I'm trying to expand your consciousness to realize that you can achieve that because you're supposed to. That's how you get free from this place, is to realize that that is you, instead of focusing on past lives and who you were in different times on this earth. You're supposed to rise above the earth and rise above the ego and above. You're supposed to climb out of this playpen. Okay? You're supposed to climb out of this playpen that you're in. This is a playpen for baby souls. You're supposed to learn how to stand up, look around, and hoist yourself up and over the playpen. And then your parents are going to put you in the other thing to play in, and you'll only go to sleep in that. But when you wake up, you'll climb out every time, and they'll know that you did it, and they'll come find you because you'll come crawling out to them, and they'll go, look who's up, and they'll put you in the little bouncy thing to strengthen your legs. That same thing happens with your soul. So we're not trying to get you to focus on the past lives. We're trying to pull you into that higher realm because it's easier as a transition. The quickening happens from there as an easier transition to then look down and see this other lives from that position of the higher self. Then your understanding becomes easier of slipping into these other selves to remember what you did in these other lives. And that becomes a far easier transition than going from this perspective to the confusion of having multiple lives, because they become multiple personalities to you. They still do that to us, even though I'm coming from that higher plane. And that's what I was telling you about. It still gets confusing if you talk to somebody who was in that same life with you as another person, and you're both coming from that perspective. You'll shift into a conversation as those people and then have to realize, wait, I just was talking as that person. And you know what I mean? Because that happens. So most people don't talk about that too much. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of the things. Risen said, my dreams are real. This is all an illusion. Right. Well, there's no difference between the dream state, your sleeping dream, your waking dream, your astral projection, or this one. They're all the same. The difference in all of those is the time it takes to manifest something. In your sleeping dream, you can manifest something instantaneously. In your daydream, you can manifest something instantaneously. In your dream walking state or your astral projection state, you can manifest something instantly. In this matrix, in this illusion, there's time. You're bound by the time here. Those other states, you're outside of time. Okay, here you're in time, so it takes time to manifest something here. So that's the only difference between this place. This place is identical to a sleeping dream, a waking dream, or an astral projection, except for it exists in time. And those places exist outside of time. You exist outside of time. It's the only way that you can get into those places, because you're immortal and you exist in a density, not a dimension. Dimension is a place of time. Density is a place of spirit, and that is outside of time. Your immortal soul resides in the third dimension here, in halfway through the sixth density. So you're in a density while you're thinking that you're here. Your actual personality is in the third density, spiritual personality, who believes you are this personality of this physical body. Once you align yourself with a higher idea, that's when you start perceiving your past lives, right? And then you can look at those past lives. It's easier to do from the perspective of the higher self. So once you pull yourself into that consciousness of the higher self, you realize that this is not your true name. This is the name that this physical body has in this life. And then you will start to discover, and some people instinctively start to discover who their higher self name is, and they start using it as a magical name down here, or their true name down here. And if you ask anybody who knows me this entire life, I've told them that I am Kelto. And I've always said that to everybody here. Okay. And that is the name of that I go by as a soul, as a spirit. I am Kelto. So if I just told everybody that I was channeling Kelto and just told you all this, you guys would all be like, oh, he's channeling some guy, some alien spirit from the sixth density. and everybody would be all hard pressed to pay me all kinds of money. I probably should have done that from the beginning. So if you see me just all of a sudden start doing that, it's because I've decided that I need to get paid, and then I'll start doing that. But I still give you the same information. In fact, I give you probably more information than most of these people that are channeling give you, but not all of them. I've seen a lot of them where when people go, "What do you think of this person?" I'm like, hold on, let me take a look. I take a look and go, yes, that person is definitely a higher being and most of the time, the people that are channeling them don't realize that they're channeling their actual higher self, and they're doing the exact same thing. They're saying, I'm channeling so-and-so, and it's a foreign person, and it's not me. And they haven't realized that it is them yet. And they, at some point, will. And they may, over time, they may do that, but never tell anyone because they locked themselves into saying this was an alien or a higher being that I was channeling, that I worked through. And once they realize it was their higher self, that transition is only going to get people mad at you if you say, oh, by the way, I discovered that was my higher self. People are going to be like, then you're a fraud, you're a liar, and you made it up, and you got all this money, and then everyone's going to hate you, and they'll dox you forever. So some of these people who wake up and realize that's their higher self, and they've been doing it for 20 years or so, they're not going to tell anybody that it's their higher self. They're going to continue to let people believe that it is an entity that is not them, and then they're moving over for. But not all of them are doing that. Some people that do that, it's not their higher self, and they are channeling somebody else. But the majority are their higher self, and they just don't know it. And that's okay. It's part of the illusion. It's just part of the way things work here. All right, let's continue with Raw a little bit here. But if you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat for me.
Void. We would substitute the noun, plenum. 82.7 questioner. Then, if I were observing the beginning of the octave at that time through a telescope, say from this position, would I see the center of many, many galaxies appearing?
Yes, Penny. Penny said all the voices in my head are parts of me. As a kid, I called myself Katrina. Am I saying that right? No, Katharina. Katerina, if you were Russian, Katharina. So yeah, all the voices that go on, your ego will take on the personality for you if you allow the ego to do that. And so the ego will pretend that it is that personality that you're hearing in your head. But it is you. They're aspects of you. More than likely, they are different personalities that you have been, and quite possibly personality that you can be, that from different lives. But your ego will grab a hold of them if you allow the ego to do so. The ego will start running that voice in your head and acting like they're that person, but it's you. All of it is you, and you have to realize that. That was what was going on with Tyler Durden in Fight Club. If you look up Ed Norton's character, ask yourself this. I tell people this all the time. Ask yourself, there was a Brad Pitt was Tyler Durden. What was Ed Norton's name? What was Ed Norton's name? He was a different person. What was his name? You're going to find that he doesn't have a name. If you look up his character in the movie script or on IMDb or whatever it's called, or just Google it, his title, his character's name was the narrator. Okay. Why is that? Because Tyler Durden was an aspect of himself. It was his ego. So, and you learn that. If you've never seen the movie, I just spoiled it for you. But if you saw the movie, then you know that. So it was his ego, and that was a struggle where he split because his life was miserable, and he wanted to be like Tyler Durden. So the Tyler Durden character became his doppelganger, and his ego separated it. So he had what they call a psychological split, where he had split personalities, and he became Tyler Durden. And at one point, Tyler Durden explains that to him. Sometimes you were pretending that you were me, and sometimes you were pretending that you were you watching me. The entire time, it was just you. Okay? And so no one knew Ed Norton's name. None of the characters in the movie ever referred to Ed Norton as anything other than Tyler Durden. He was actually Tyler Durden. So him thinking he was Ed Norton, thinking he was the narrator, that was the personality that was the split. So the truth of the story, it's a great psychological film, and in psych classes, they talk about that movie all the time because it was well written. Because the truth is, you started from the perspective of Ed Norton's character, the narrator, but the truth is, he's actually Tyler Durden. Okay? But the physical body was Ed Norton. Okay? Ed Norton's character was the physical body. the Tyler Durden character that he portrayed was him, but his name was Tyler Durden. So he had to eventually put himself back together. He was Tyler Durden at the end, but the Brad Pitt egoic version of him was no longer in his mind's eye because he was back whole as one, and he took control and basically killed his ego. But he just got control of it, and that personality, he realized, merged back into him, and it was him, and he was more at peace with himself instead of fighting with himself. So basically, it was the narrator, Ed Norton's character, was his conscience, and Tyler Durden became the ego, the devil on the left shoulder, and he became the angel on the right shoulder. And that was that dichotomy that was playing out between the thought process of do this, no, wait, you wouldn't want to do that, don't do that, and him following the more dominant character and not defending things until eventually he said, enough, no, I don't like what you're doing. And eventually he fought against that and then wrestled with all of that and then merged those two back as one. And that was at the very end when he looked at Carlo when he was holding his face that he had shot through. And he was like, yeah, you caught me at a really strange time in my life, Carlo, but I really love you. And that's how the movie was, at the end there. So, yeah, so what's going on in your head is you. And the ego is just making you think at this point because the ego's trying to get your attention. So the ego's trying to get you at this point to think they're separate entities, but they're all just you. Okay. And chances are they're you from a different life. And so you're hearing that. Otherwise, your ego just makes that up, right? So that split that people will try to tell you that you have, they'll want to give you medication for it, and that just numbs you so you don't hear those voices. That's all it does. You can do the same thing through meditation and realizing that they're not real, and you can meditate and reintegrate them into your personality and accept that they are part of you. They're just part of your personality traits. That's all they are. And you're just having them in aspects of voices with a distinct different personality, but they're just you. That's all that they are. So that takes a little bit more work and understanding if you've been doing it for most of your life, but just know that they're you. And the reason that they try to keep saying things louder and louder is because that's the ego trying to be that personality. So you'll listen to the ego. The ego's job is to do that. The ego's job is to yell negative shit at you or yell positive shit at you to get you either to believe you're the greatest in the world or that you're nothing. The ego will do whatever it takes to get your attention. The thinking mind also, it just does what it's told. So if the ego can get a hold of your thinking mind, it'll start thinking all the negative thoughts, or your thoughts will race and you won't be able to sleep and you'll be an insomniac. You'll have insomnia. Your job is to meditate and rise above that, and that quiets them, and you become the experiencer. You realize that's your higher self. Once you can reside in that place at all times, all of those voices will merge back into your persona, and they won't be able to touch you there. So you'll have a harder time when you first wake up, or when you forget to pull yourself into that higher place. When you first wake up, the ego is going to go da, 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 in your head. When you're really tired, the ego will be talking to you, and the thinking mind does whatever the ego tells it or whatever you tell it. Right? Okay, let's continue here.
And each of them then spreading outward in a spiral condition over what we would consider billions of years, but the spirals spreading outward in approximately what we would consider the same rate, so that all these galaxies began as the first speck of light at the same time and then spread out in roughly the same rate of spreading. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. The query has confusing elements. There is a center to infinity. From this center all spreads. Therefore, there are centers to the creation, to the galaxies, to star systems, to planetary systems, and to consciousness. In each case you may see growth from the center outward. Thus you may see your query as being overgeneral in concept. 82.8 Questioner, considering only our Milky Way galaxy, at its beginnings, I will assume that the first was the first occurrence that we could find presently with our physical apparatus was the first occurrence, the appearance of a star of the nature of our sun. Ra, I am Ra. In the case of the galactic systems, the first manifestation of the logos is a cluster of central systems which generate the outward swirling energies, producing, in their turn, further energy centers for the logos, or what you would call stars. 82.9 Questioner, are these central original creations a cluster of what we call stars, then? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. However, the closer to the, shall we say, beginning of the manifestation of the logos the star is, the more it partakes in the one original thought. 82.10 question.
Right. Yeah. Penny said my ego sings all the time, is trying to drive me nuts. The ego tries to do everything it can to get your attention. So you have to learn to meditate or find that Zen place where you rise above that. The ego can't reach you there. It'll be quiet in the background. The thinking mind also can't reach you there. When you achieve this place, that's where you're trying to achieve at all times. And if you ever take meditation, your guide who's trying to help you meditate should explain that to you, unless they're just giving you a guided meditation and then they're not actually trying to teach you how to do it on your own. Anybody who's trying to teach you how to meditate on your own and learning the concept of it will tell you exactly what I just told you. That place you're trying to achieve in your meditations is your higher self. And you're trying to then, once you learn what that feels like there, and you experience that, and you realize that you're not thinking, you're not the thinking mind, and the ego is not able to reach you, and it's not thinking either and trying to get your attention, that you're actually in a place of Zen, in a place of tranquility, in a place of quiet, and the mind is quiet, the ego is quiet, and you're just witnessing and experiencing everything, and your thought form is now light language in your head, and it's completely different. And then when you want to think it, you then say, like, I want to say these words. You'll hear that entire concept of the entire sentence that you want to say, and literally like a nanosecond before your brain translates it into the thought. And that's when you start to realize that function is when you're capable of staying in that place, because you're aware of it. You become self-aware, just like you become self-aware as an animal and then become a human when you die in that life, because you became self-aware. You also become self-aware as a soul, as a spirit, as the experiencer. And when you do that, you can then reside in that place longer and longer periods of time. And eventually what you're trying to achieve is being in that place as your higher self, as your true self, 24 hours a day. From the time you wake up until the time you go to sleep, you're trying to stay in that place. It's hard in the beginning, and then it's hard once you realize it in the beginning to do that. But eventually, you sit and reside in that place, and you put yourself there instantaneously when you want to do it. But I've been doing this since I was born, and I've been teaching it. I was talking like this when I was 8, 9 years old, so I've been teaching it ever since. So it becomes a little bit easier when you've done it after time, right? And then you have access to things instantaneously there from the Akashic records or whatever, memory of what's going on there in that higher place. And you don't have the ego talking to you, or you don't have that construct of this place. But this place's job is to distract you and pull you down from there. So even I get caught here and have to pull myself back up, because this place is designed to do that, pull you down here, keep you in this place. Okay. So let's continue. Deborah Anderson, welcome. Happy Friday. All right, let's continue here.
Why does this partaking in the original thought have a gradient radially outward? That's the way I understand your statement. Ra, I am Ra. This is the plan of the one infinite creator. The one original thought is the harvest of all previous, if you would use this term, experience of the creator by the creator. As it decides to know itself, it generates itself into that plenum, full of the glory and the power of the one infinite creator, which is manifested to your perceptions as space or outer space. Each generation of this knowing begets a knowing which has the capacity, through free will, to choose methods of knowing itself. Therefore, gradually, step by step, the creator becomes that which may know itself, and the portions of the creator partake less purely in the power of the original word or thought. This is for the purpose of refinement of the one original thought. The creator does not properly create as much as it experiences itself. 82.11 Questioner, what was the form, condition, or experience of the first division of consciousness that occurred at the beginning of this octave of black experience? Ra, I am Ra. We touch upon previous material. The harvest of the previous octave was the creator of love manifested in mind, body, and spirit. This form of the creator experiencing itself may perhaps be seen to be the first division. 82.
Yeah, you're right, Peter. Peter said, don't forget to trailer your book. You're right. Let me throw that up there and do a commercial real quick, because I haven't done that all day. Right? So, yeah, got to pay the bills. Right? So here's my book. For those of you who don't know that I wrote a book talking about all of this information that I'm giving you, here's a commercial for my book. Those of you listening on the MP3 broadcast around the world, you'll hear that as well. All right.
What is the reality about reality? Returning to the old ways. It is a comprehensive book about what is really going on here on this planet. It talks about the true spirituality that the controllers who think they own this planet have been keeping from you for thousands of years. It explains to you the knowledge that you gain from the universe itself when you live the way the prophets of the world throughout time told us how to live. Eat right, meditate, take care of yourself, treat others right. All the things they originally told us to do, but the controllers have removed from right in front of our eyes. The way to ascend to heaven. The reality about reality. Returning to the old ways. On sale worldwide online now.
Right. Thank you, Peter, for reminding me to do that, because I forget to do that all the time. And I have the commercials sitting here waiting for me to throw them up there. And I didn't do it. And here we are, 2 hours and 34 minutes into the show. And that's the first commercial I played. Okay. So, yeah, so that book's on sale worldwide online. You can buy it anywhere and they'll ship it to, you can Google it. You can go to Amazon and they'll ship it to you wherever you are. Like if you're in Australia, it'll cost you a little bit more money to get it over there because we're not printing it currently there. So you have to order it from outside of Australia and have it shipped to you. I'm not exactly sure how much it costs for that, but I know that you have to pay the shipping for it. So wherever you are in the world, it's there. You can buy it. You can also get it on Kindle. You can get it on ebook. That's cheaper. If you don't want to buy the hard copy and have it sent to you, the paperback or the hardcover, and have it sent to you, you can download it on your device, whatever device that you use. And that'll only cost you about $4, $5, something like that, American dollars. That'll translate to whatever it is in your country. So you can read it that way. And then if you want to buy the hardcover book, you can do that later on. Okay, so let's continue. Yeah, right. Thank you, Peter. He says, you're welcome. So, mom was, she was trying to sleep. Penny realized why I got up. I got up and went over. My mom was falling asleep over there. So I woke her up. So I will be having to leave probably in about another 15, 20 minutes. But for right now, we can continue with the law of one. So let's go ahead and continue that with the next question here.
Point 1-2 questioner. I was interested in specifically how this very first division showed up in this octave. I was interested to know if it made the transition through first, second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. densities. I would like to take the first mind/body/spirit complexes and trace their experience from the very start to the present so that I would better understand the condition that we are in now by comparing it with this original growth. Could you please tell me precisely how this came about as to the formation, possibly, of the planets and the growth through the densities, if that is the way it happened, please? Ra, I am Ra. Your queries seem more confused than your basic mental distortions in this area.
Yep.
Let us speak in general and perhaps you may find a less confused and more simple method of eliciting information in this area. A very great deal of creation was manifested without the use of the concepts involved in consciousness, as you know it. The creation itself is a form of consciousness which is unified, the logos being the one great heart of creation. The process of evolution through this period, which may be seen to be timeless, is most valuable to take into consideration, for it is against the background of this essential unity of the fabric of creation that we find the ultimate development of the logoi which chose to use that portion of the harvested consciousness of the Creator to move forward with the process of knowledge of self. As it had been found to be efficient to use the various densities, which are fixed in each octave, in order to create conditions in which self-conscious sublogoi could exist, this was carried out throughout the growing flower-strewn field, as your simile suggests, of the one infinite creation. The first beings of mind, body, and spirit were not complex. The experience of mind/body/spirits at the beginning of this octave of experience was singular. There was no third density for getting. There was no veil. The lessons of third density are predestined by the very nature of the vibratory rates experienced during this particular density and by the nature of the quantum jump to the vibratory experiences of fourth density. 82.13 questioner, am I correct, then, in assuming that the first mind/body/spirit experiences, as this galaxy progressed in growth, were those that moved through the densities, that is, the process we have discussed coming out of second density? For instance, let us take a particular planet, one of the very early planets formed near the center of the galaxy. I will assume that the planet solidified in first density, that life appeared in second density, and all of the mind/body/spirit complexes of third density progressed out of second density on that planet and evolved in third density. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is hypothetically correct. 82.14 Questioner, did this in fact happen on some of the planets or on a large percentage of the planets near the center of this galaxy in this way? Ra, I am Ra. Our knowledge is limited. We know of the beginning but cannot asseverate to the precise experiences of those things occurring before us. You know the nature of historical teaching. At our level of learn/teaching we may expect little distortion. However, we cannot, with surety, say there is no distortion as we speak of specific occurrences of which we were not consciously a part. It is our understanding that your supposition is correct. Thus we so hypothesize. 82.15 Questioner.
Right, so there was a time before the veiling, and everybody, in fact, the raw consciousness grew up before the veiling. They were on a planet of trees, and they eventually became third dimensional beings from that, and then moved up from there. So they didn't understand the veiling until they came to Earth to try and help the people that were here, and got them more stuck by giving them information. And that's what you hear written in the old scrolls, talking about error, making mistakes, error being a entity making mistakes because the information was given to people who were in service to self, and some of the raw consciousness that was helping the people on the Earth didn't understand that. So of course that's why the raw consciousness is staying here, because we didn't understand when we got here the nature of the beast here, so to speak. So some of us came down here to learn that, and I do that. I go down to ecosystems on other planets and learn the ecosystem. So when I came here, I didn't just come here as a human. I came here and went through the entire ecosystem the way that it's supposed to be done. So I was, like a tree and a rock and a blade of grass, and then an animal. I was a dog once, and then eventually became a human, to learn the ecosystem and the dynamic of the physics here, the dynamic of what's going on here, to integrate with this ecosystem naturally and organically, so that I would have better access to the ecosystem, and I would understand more importantly, how this ecosystem operates, so that I can make changes to the ecosystem. So if you just come in as a wanderer in the physical, then you don't have that knowledge, and you have to get solidified into the matrix, and then you have to learn about it. So I came through in a way where I wouldn't have to be worrying about being a human trying to figure all the whole place out. I went and learned that way. There was a group of us who did that, and we came in organically and came in from the beginning to come to this point. So we've been here a lot longer than you guys are aware of, right? So think about how long a rock will sit in one place before it gets destroyed by something, right? So, and sometimes trees live to be 500 years old. So going through that process takes a lot longer, and some people don't want to do that because that's my God, I'm not going to know who I am for like a billion years or a million years. I could be completely nothing for a million years before I learn. Well, if you're inside of time, that seems like a long time. If you're outside of time, that's now. So I don't know if that makes any sense, right? So, but the memory, if that's where it gets a little difficult, when some people go, well, if you're unveiled, that means you must know everything. No, I only know what you still only know what you've been exposed to, or what you've learned from other people, other entities who have been exposed to it. Do you see? So if you don't send people out of your hive mind complex, like Raw talked about, where some of the people went to other galaxies, and that's why they know what the other galaxies are and what goes on in those other galaxies, because they went there and the information is now part of the collective. So unless you do that, so the creator's doing the same thing. So unless you do that, you don't have those memories. So the creator is separating itself into all of those places, fracturing itself into all those places, so that it knows what's going on in all of those places and is experiencing all of those things. But we as individuals occupy other bodies, but we don't have the perception of that, because we're not in our higher selves perceiving all of the bodies that we have at the same time. and then your higher self, which is perceiving many more things, and then your higher self, which is perceiving even more things, and then back to the creator, which is perceiving even more things. So that exponentially changes, and you gain more and more knowledge as you become. Then as you do that, then because the progression is a single cell organism or first dimensional, then second dimensional being, and then third dimensional being, and then you move up in the dimensional beingness, but you start here to realize there's a collective. And then when you move up to the fourth, you start thinking more of a collective and less of it as an individual, but you still are an individual. And by the time you get into the fifth density, the real place, you're starting to perceive other people as a hive mind complex. So you're able to then communicate on a psychic level with other people. And by the time you get to the sixth density, you're starting to take on the personality of that hive mind complex, but you still have an individual personality. And the higher up you go, the more that individual personality disappears. And eventually you become the personality of the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, and the Milky Way galaxy then becomes aware of other galaxies. And then you start interacting with those other galaxies as you move up. And then eventually you're getting to a higher realm of existence. Now we're talking way up there. And these concepts are probably scary for you. But then you start blending with those other galaxies, and you start being able to communicate with the other galaxies. And then you start being able to, as you move up, start hearing the thoughts of those personalities that are the galaxies. And then eventually you start thinking as a collective when you start thinking as this universe. And then eventually you lose your perspective as individual galaxies and you become the universal mind, hive mind complex, and you become one, the totality. And then there's multiverses. And to even try and get you to understand how big that gets, that's probably already too much for most people's comprehension down here anyways. And that's infinite. So that continues going on until you get back to the creator. Do you see? So that is a craziness in and of itself to even start fathoming that. Yeah, Shelley said trees, dang, still feel that. Yeah, right. Mama trees, right? That's funny, Shelley. Truly. And then let's see. Then Penny says, I have always felt that I have been here from the beginning. You may not necessarily have been here from the beginning of the earth, but in some cases you have been, because if you go up high enough and you get to the creator mind of the creator, then you have been here from the beginning because you're actually the creator, and so am I, and we actually created this place. So in some senses, on a very, very high level, we are and have. Peter said, I came here originally as a shooting star, where there was every day to be being the essence of time, the shooting star, and now I'm here as the essence of myself, Peter. Yeah, Pete Star, right? So yeah, well, right. So absolutely, Peter. So you still have the kind of that memory of coming here as a particle from from a meteor or something. And coming here and introducing yourself to the planet. So you have that memory of coming here that way, and then being on the planet as a being, and then evolving to a human, right? Because you did do that. Because I was there, right? Because I did the same thing. So coming here that way helps you to become in touch with this place and how it works, so that we can fix things that are here. So yeah, and so that's why you've incorporated that with Pete Star, with your platforms, Pete Star TV. That's why you've done that, because you came here as a particle from the star, as a shooting star. Absolutely, 100% true. You did. And I've never talked to you about that before to find out if you had that memory. There's other things that I would still like to talk to you about. It has to do with Judas in that time period. I would like to talk to you at some point when you're ready. Not on air like this, right? Maybe in an encrypted app, but I would like to talk to you more about that. Yeah. So we'll have to do that at some point, Peter, when you have time, because I think there's a knowledge there that or you suspect that that I can help you with, because it's time. So, yeah, we'll have to talk. All right. So then Penny said, thinking of the all as one is how I have always been being human, and thinking of the self always seemed wrong. Well, that's good that you have that perception, because that's pulling you into your higher self, Penny. So you should embrace that, because it is for seeing everything as one and seeing yourself as the all, as the one. That's why I said that in the Orion Coalition of Light, the video that I made for that group, where I said that we've come here in many guises, some of us in this third dimensional form, but we're here representing the all, or the one consciousness, because the all is the one consciousness, right? So, yeah. Let's see. Shelley says, feels still always. Yeah, Hive is a bit, what is that, wildness? Sometimes I skip because it helps, right? Yeah. And then Peter says, what is that, Divino? So you're saying something, and the translator didn't translate it properly for you into the phone. The problem when I get home, make the time and date. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we just got to figure out the time, bro. So I'll have to message you, and we can figure out the time. We'll either do it like before you leave to go and do stuff in the evening, or after you get done, because I know that's late for me, right? Or no, it's not as late. It's later for you, because like your midnight is my 8 p.m. So we'll have to figure that out, the time and date. You and I will talk about it afterwards. I'll send you a message tonight, after the show, or while I'm eating or something. I'll message you, and then we'll find, you don't have to message me right then, just as soon as you get it. Like if you go to bed, because I know it gets late for you. If you go to bed when you get up in the morning, we'll figure out a copacetic time, because you know me, we used to talk. I'll stay up late if I have to talk to you, so it's your morning, or I'll talk to you in my morning, which is your afternoon, evening, before you take off to go and do stuff. We'll figure that out, because I would like to talk to you like we used to do, because there's information that like I said, that I know you might know, and if you don't know it, you're suspecting it, and I can help you with some things, because I've been going over a lot of that and working with a few of us, specifically about some different lifetimes. Specifically Brooke, who's in here now. Her and I have done a lot of work in that respect. So, yeah, so we'll have to do that, Peter will. So I'll send you a message after I'm done here, and we'll figure out the time that we can talk. Okay. Okay. So let me continue here.
Specifically, I am trying to grasp an understanding first of the process of experience in third density before the veil, so that I can have a better understanding of the present process. Now, as I understand it, the mind/body/spirit complexes went through the process of what we call physical incarnation in this density, but there was no forgetting. What was the benefit or purpose of the physical incarnation when there was no forgetting? Ra, I am Ra. The purpose of incarnation in third density is to learn the ways of love. 82.16 Questioner, I guess I didn't state that exactly right. What I mean is, since there was no forgetting, since the mind/body/spirit complexes had the consciousness, in what we call physical incarnation, they knew the same thing that they would know not in the physical incarnation. What was the mechanism of teaching that taught this, the ways of love, in the third density physical prior to the forgetting process? Ra, I am Ra. We ask your permission to answer this query in an oblique fashion as we perceive an area in which we might be of aid. 82.17 Questioner, certainly. Ra, I am Ra. Your queries seem to be pursuing the possibility/probability that the mechanisms of experience in third density are different if a mind/body/spirit is attempting them rather than a mind/body/spirit complex. The nature of third density is constant. Its ways are to be learned the same now and ever. Thusly, no matter what form the entity facing these lessons, the lessons and mechanisms are the same. The Creator will learn from itself. Each entity has unmanifest portions of learning and, most importantly, learning which is involved with other selves. 82.18 Questioner.
Right. Yeah, Deborah's absolutely right. Deborah says, and I put this up on the screen for you. Right. Love is the highest frequency. Absolutely. Love is the creation. I put that into my video for the Orion Coalition of Light in the video. I literally put right in there in that video. In fact, I can play it for you. Those of you who are watching on the MP4 broadcast, you'll be able to see the visuals, what I'm talking about. I'm going to play that video for the Orion Coalition of Light. Those of you who are listening on the MP3 broadcast, you're just going to hear the music being played and you won't see the visuals. So you'll just wonder why there's a musical interlude that happens right here. So this is for the benefit of those people watching on MP4 broadcast. You'll get to see this video that I'm going to play right here for you. And this is actually on the Orion Coalition of Light group on Facebook. I have that up there in that group. So if you're not in that group, you can join that group, but it's not necessary to do. But this is the video that I made introducing the Orion Coalition of Light and the Orion Coalition of, or the Orion Council of Light and the Orion Coalition down here on Earth specifically. So let me play this for you so you can see what all the stuff that I've been talking about and what Deborah was just talking about right there plays into the wording here. So watch this. Okay, so those of you who didn't have the benefit of visuals because you're listening on the MP3 broadcast, I apologize to you guys because you just heard that musical interlude, which was the Om sound that they were doing with their voices without saying Om. They were hitting that same Om tone, and the sounds that you were hearing and the vibration in the background was the heart chakra and the third eye chakra, the frequency of those two chakras. So the frequency of love and the frequency of the third eye was being played there for you. So it was literally the sounds of 3, 6, and 9 that you were hearing in the background, and the higher tone that you were hearing that seemed to be moving up and down the spectrum was actually your crown chakra and the resonation of that. So I designed that to go into that video to play throughout. So if you're listening to it, you can track those resonances or listen to them. So if you're watching the visuals and you watch that video again, you'll see that it coincides with the colors of the words that you're seeing on the screen, and the images that you're seeing on the screen are the colors of the chakras that are being targeted to you by the sounds that you're hearing. So you'll see that the green, the purple, and the red in the verbiage and in the backgrounds of all the images. So most people don't catch most of that, right? So yes, right. Shelley said to me only love is why we are here. Love is why we are here. Absolutely 100%. Okay. So Shelley said, I was 15-year-old dream, Jesus, it was so intense. After that no love, I saw hate, everything but on purpose. Programming, yeah, you have some things will happen. You have to realize that the modus operandi of the Orion Crusaders, the Anunnaki, evil people, is to get a hold of you and dreamscape you. So when you're sleeping, they put thoughts of dread into you and cause you to have nightmares to try and affect you with the same thing that the news agencies do on television with fear. Because when you're fear-based, it lowers your vibration and you're easier to control. So they keep the population of the Earth mentally maturity level between 11 and 14 years of age. No matter how old somebody's body is, their maturity level is between 11 and 14. And the smarter that when they test on IQ test, the higher their IQ is, then they say, you're a genius. That just means that you're somewhere closer to 18 years of age mentally, maturity level. When you test as a genius level IQ, you're above the age of 18 years of age. Not quite sure what's going on, but Instagram just dropped. So Instagram I just got knocked off of Instagram for some reason. Not quite sure what happened there, but maybe they have a 3-hour limit on Instagram, but I've never had that happen before. So Instagram just dropped at the 3-hour mark. So that's fine. I'll have to remember that and find out if they have a 3-hour gap now, then I'll have to stop broadcasting on Instagram and go back to doing it on another channel for the third thing. I was doing it on Twitter for a while. Maybe I'll go back to doing that on Twitter again and broadcasting on there as the third place that I simulcast. Okay, so it's okay because I need to get off here anyways. But yeah, you have to realize that that if you get those thoughts and you feel that dread from that, or your ego does that to you, a lot of times that negative energy is being done by the opposition on purpose, because they try to identify anybody who is in service to others and try to lower their vibration and keep them from the ascension. If you are a wanderer, they also try to identify you and keep you from waking up so that you can't change the status quo here. That's why most of us are not trying to wake up the entire planet. I'm just trying to wake up the lions, right? Because 86% of the people that are here are lions. So I'm trying to wake up those people who want to be woken up, not the people who have to wake up, or this ecosystem. So I'm trying to wake up those people. I'm a beacon for wanderers who will find and hear my voice and start tuning in. Most of the humans on this planet will tune me out and turn me off. People that are curious and trying to ascend, they may resonate with me. And if they do, and you're out there and you resonate with me, it's because you're either close to waking up or you're a wanderer and you don't know it yet. You're instinctively drawn to me because of the sound of my voice, or you see me and you realize that you're drawn to me and that wait a minute, I got to listen to this guy. And there's other people just like me out there. So you may be following 10 of us. You may be watching 10 of us around the internet and going, this one's awake, that one's awake. And I love what this one and this one and this one are telling me, because those people are also awake. I just was just exposed to Morg, right? Love him. Haven't met him. Don't know him, but he's very, very accurate in what he's talking about. I haven't found many details where he doesn't understand what's going on. He has really good producers, I believe. I don't know if he's the one doing all the research. I do all my own research. I don't have producers. I'm the producer. I'm the director. I'm the writer of the show. He has producers, I'm pretty sure. If not, he's doing a really good job. But he edits every video that he has in, and I can see that it's edited in small sentences. And he also does really good research, because I was watching him talking about something the other day, and I have the book. Oh, he was talking about holograms. and the reality of being a hologram and the mind being a hologram, and what he used as the example where he was telling you came right from Talbot's book, which is I have underneath the camera here, Michael Talbot, Holographic Universe, and the stuff that he put in there from all of the different people in history that have in science, in physics, have realized that this universe is more holographic than it's not. And the things that he said were he didn't give credit unless he did it in his credits, which he usually does. I didn't look for that, but he didn't say this is from this research. But I recognize the words because I've read it, because I was going to be a physicist. I was going to be a nuclear physicist. And that's why I interpret the conversation between Dawn and Ra, because Dawn was a nuclear physicist, and the words that he uses are familiar to me. So when Ra speaks the way he does, I understand what Ra is saying because he was talking to Dawn, who was in fact a nuclear physicist. So the words were spoken so that Dawn would understand them with the intelligence that he had. That's why I interpret that. Okay, so let's continue, right? But yeah, that feeling of dread that you get from the television and from other things is done on purpose, and sometimes your dreams are occupied the same way, and it's the opposition trying to fill you with dread to keep you in a lower vibration so that you're easier to control, so you can't wake up and start thinking for yourself and then effectively change this reality. And they don't want that to happen because all of their entire livelihood centers around the fact that power and money and that kind of crap. All right, so let's continue a bit.
Then prior to the forgetting process, there was no concept of anything but service to others polarization. What sort of societies and experiences in third density were created and evolved in this condition? Ra, I am Ra. It is our perception that such conditions created the situation of a most pallid experiential nexus in which lessons were garnered with the relative speed of the turtle to the cheetah. 82.19 Questioner, did such societies evolve?
Okay, hold on, I'm going to stop there. So Rhonda said, my son had a test done because he is autistic. In order to get funding, he had to do tests on him high in average, above average, right, in IQ, right? So yeah, and then if he was, yeah, because see, they were trying to stifle the kids coming through who had access to the real internet to communicate with one another. The indigo kids is what they were called, star children, indigo. It's where you get the star seed from now. And so they were in all the injections for all of the for all of their inoculations. They were trying to close off the third eye, and they made a bunch of kids autistic. And in doing so, they didn't stifle what they thought they were going to stifle. And some of the kids are super intelligent and they have super abilities, especially the functioning ones. And so that didn't work out the way they wanted it to work out. And they kind of got caught and they had to stop it. The world went from 1 in like 80,000 kids being autistic to 1 in 8 for a very short period of time. And all of those kids are in their 20s now. And some of them are close to their 30s. Mostly in their mid-20s now, between 20 and 30 years of age. In that range, there's a lot of people on the spectrum because that they put them on the spectrum trying to stifle them. And then the kids who came after them, they try to do it in other ways, and they're coming through like superhumans now. But the veiling is still happening, and so they've learned that fluoride in the water and different crap that they put in the food around the world does the same job. And so that's why they're doing it. And that's why we're stopping that. Sugar, right? So yeah, I believe he's super, Rhonda says super gifted. Yeah, I'm sure he is, because they try to stop you every way they can. And it always backfires. And that's why COVID didn't work the way they wanted it to work. He's 12. Okay. So that's why that COVID didn't work the way they wanted it to work either. COVID realigned people, and that was one of their really desperate attempts to take control of the planet. They gained control of some countries, but 86 countries have now taken back control away from them and have gone completely the opposite direction, including the United States. And that's just driving them crazy because they're losing their power. And so now they're trying to figure out how they can reconsolidate it. And their answer to everything is throw money at it. So you're going to see in the coming elections in all of the countries, you're going to see them throwing billions of dollars at every election now, because they're desperate to gain back control. So you're going to see them spend a phenomenal amount of money in the United States in the midterms. They're probably going to put $1 billion in every single election here for every person that's going to get elected. Is going to have $1 billion or more dollars because they have to gain back control of the House and Senate so they can stop Donald Trump from doing what he's doing. The same thing's happening in many, many, many countries across the planet where they're trying to do the same thing, and they've tried to solidify things in the same way. So so I'm not sure what we're on. I'm going to put us at 19, 82, 19, and we'll just start there no matter how far back that is. Okay, guys, I got to go. It's 10 after 6. I got to get Mom. I got to turn on the lights in the living room. It's getting dark in there on Mom. I got to turn those on. I got to get Mom in the shower, and then I got to get us dinner. I love you guys. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. This has been Orion Rising. I am your host, Kelto, Leonard O'Neill. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good morrow, depending on where in the world you are tuning into the show. I'll see you guys either in the chat. I'll see you on Wednesday. If you want to join the Zoom call and you're not in the Law of One class chat, contact me on Messenger or however you can contact me. Contact me if you want to come into the Zoom. It's not on air and it's not being recorded. If you want to ask me direct questions, 3 p.m. West Coast America time, Wednesday, that West Coast time, because if you're in Australia, that'll be Thursday. I do a Zoom call where you can ask questions. There'll be other people in the Zoom call, but you can come in there and ask questions, and it won't go out over the air, and it won't be recorded. So it's a safe space where you can ask me questions about anything that you want to ask, and I'll talk to you. You don't have to have your camera on if you don't want it, but you will have to have your microphone on, or you can type it in the chat that's in there on the Zoom if you don't want to talk. But either way, if you're interested in that, get a hold of me, and I'll give you the link on Wednesday when I do the show. Or when I say show, when it's not on the air, when I do the Zoom call. All right, guys, I love you guys. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. I'll either see you in the chat. I'll see you on Wednesday. Or I'll see you back here. Right? All right, guys.